Chapter 1745. Although Lin Yi had already suffered severe internal injuries, Lin Yi had to grit his teeth and hold on to his last breath. He knew that he couldn't fall. Once he fell, it would be over for him and Guan Xan, so Lin Yi had to fight. Every time he fell, Lin Yi told himself that he had to stand up, or else there would be nothing left. Another round of attacks began. Lin Yi endured the pain all over his body and wanted to stand up. But this time he really couldn't stand up. He felt like his body was falling apart, and he was very sleepy and tired. He really wanted to close his eyes. In front of Lin Yi's eyes, the bloodstains turned into a white light. He had an urge to be free. It was as if, behind the white light, he saw peace. That was the jade space. As long as he went to the jade space, Lin Yi would be able to rest. He wanted to walk over. Whoosh! A gust of wind beside his ear suddenly woke Lin Yi up. He had almost automatically entered the space of the jade pendant. That was too dangerous. If he had really entered the space of the jade pendant, he would have definitely died today. Lin Yi bit his tongue suddenly, and the pain brought him a moment of clarity. Lin Yi suddenly stood up, raised his fists, and met Right 13's attack. Although Lin Yi seemed to be attacking with full strength every time, he was getting weaker and weaker. Fortunately, Right 13's palm wasn't Wu Qintian's palm. This time, in the loud bang, Lin Yi sharply heard the crisp sound of bones breaking. Lin Yi was a doctor, and he was exceptionally sensitive to this sound. He was immediately delighted. He saw results again. Right 13's palm must have been broken by him. This made Lin Yi, who was originally unable to hold on, excited again. Before it was swelling and now it was broken. If he continued like this, both of Right 13's palms would definitely be crippled. As soon as the thought popped up, Lin Yi suddenly perked up. He quickly channeled the art of dragon mastery and healed the injuries on his hands and meridians. He then stood up and looked at Right 13 with his head held high. Let's go again! Although Lin Yi's body was covered in blood and his pale face had a hint of death, Lin Yi's voice was so determined, without a hint of compromise. Although Guan Xan's mouth was sealed and she couldn't speak, her eyes weren't blindfolded. She saw every single scene of the battle between Lin Yi and Right 13. At that moment, Guan Xan's heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. She shook her head desperately and tears fell like rain. She wanted to stop Lin Yi and let him escape quickly, but she couldn't make any sound. Her weak whimpers didn't have any effect at all. Guan Xan was a nurse and came from a medical family. How could she not see that Lin Yi was now a crossbow? If this continued, Lin Yi would definitely die. When Kong Mingming saw that Lin Yi was still able to get up, he immediately shouted, "Get rid of this kid!" However, U13 was the only one who knew his own situation. His palms were about to be crippled by Lin Yi. He wasn't a physical cultivator. Although he used his palms weren't hard. If this continued, his hands would probably be crippled without a doubt. Although the intersex palm was crippled, it could be recovered with some medicine and pills, unlike the outer sect, which would suffer heavy losses. However, after recovery, it would not be as flexible as before. After all, no one was like Lin Yi who could use his own mantra to heal injuries, or use true qi to heal injuries like the Sun family. Relying on medicine was still a little lacking. Moreover, once the bones in his hands were shattered, even if he relied on medicine to recover, he would still be half crippled, unless there was medicine that was 3rd grade and above to reconnect bones and tendons. However, how could the hidden Right family have such medicine? It was rare even in the heavenly elixir sect. How could they give it to him? Seeing that Lin Yi stood up again, Right 13 was annoyed. Since he became famous, he had never seen an Earth-class expert like Lin Yi who didn't care about his own life. One had to know that it was extremely difficult for an ordinary person to cultivate to Earth class. Even if it was a battle, they would fight if they could win, and run if they couldn't. Unless there was a fatal blow, there was no room for retaliation. Now, Lin Yi clearly had many opportunities to escape. Right 13 was even thinking that if Lin Yi ran, he wouldn't chase after him. However, Lin Yi didn't run. He stood up again and again to fight with him. This made Right 13 feel helpless. He wanted to curse out loud. Did you think it was easy for you to cultivate to Earth class? Did you have to fight to your death and cripple me before you stopped? However, seeing Lin Yi's firm tone and determined gaze, Right 13 knew that this guy was playing with his life. The soft feared the hard feared the unreasonable, and the unreasonable feared the reckless. This saying was also applicable among cultivators. Seeing that Lin Yi still wanted to come again, Right 13 was really a little afraid. Although he was confident that he could kill Lin Yi, the price he would have to pay was too high. He had no enmity with Lin Yi and was only here to help. If he killed Lin Yi, he wouldn't get any benefits. Instead, he would have to pay the price of crippling his palms. It was obvious which was more important. Therefore, when he thought of this, Right 13 retreated a little. He was different from Kong Mingming. Whether Lin Yi died or not had nothing to do with him. Young Master Kong, this person is crazy. Let's go. Once the thought of retreating arose, Right 13 didn't want to tangle with Lin Yi anymore. His palms were his, and there was no need to lose them just to curry favor with Kong Mingming. Besides, now that he had the pill recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, his mission was considered complete. When he returned to the Yu family, Right Jintian wouldn't blame him. At most, the Kong family would have some complaints. Go. Kong Mingming was taken aback. He didn't expect that Right 13, who had the upper hand and was forcing Lin Yi to retreat, would suddenly want to leave. However, Right 13 didn't answer. Instead, he flew over and picked up Kong Mingming. Although his hands were in pain and he really didn't want to run away with a person. If he left Kong Mingming here, the Yu family would inevitably be criticized by others. They would say that the Yu family got rid of the donkey when it was no longer of use. If that happened, who would work for the Yu family in the future? Take her away too. Kong Mingming wasn't willing to fail just like that. How could he let Guan Xen go so easily before he got the recipe? One more person wasn't a difficult thing for Right 13. Since he had already brought one up, there was no need for a second. However, just as Right 13's hand was about to grab Guan Xen, he suddenly felt a strong gust of wind coming at him from behind. Put her down! Lin Yi waved his fists and rushed at Right 13 as if his life depended on it. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1746. His life hangs by a thread. Chapter 1751. His life hangs by a thread. It could be said that Lin Yi's entire body was full of openings, but this kind of reckless madness made Yu Shursen shudder. He subconsciously let go of Guan Xan and suddenly met Lin Yi with his palm. Bang! There was a loud noise as Lin Yi's fists collided with Yu Shursen's palm again. Every time they collided, Lin Yi suffered a fatal blow. Now that Lin Yi was like a crossbow. This palm almost made Lin Yi spit out his organs. However, Lin Yi did not compromise. He gritted his teeth, endured the pain in his body, and forcefully took the palm. His mouth was full of blood, but he said firmly, "You can leave, but if you take her away, I'll fight you to the death." Yu Shursen was really afraid of Lin Yi. This time, he clearly felt that the degree of fracture in his palm was much greater than before. Although he could kill Lin Yi if he continued to fight, what was the point of killing him? What if his palm was crippled? Yu Shursen glanced at Lin Yi, took a deep breath, and quickly left the place with Kong Mingming without saying a word. As for Guan Xan, he was not in the mood to catch her. It was not worth it to compete with a lunatic like Lin Yi. Yi's somewhat thin figure stood there and watched Yu Shursen leave. When he was far away, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. That was close. Lin Yi thought to himself. The only thing that kept him going was his willpower. If he were to fall, then both he and Guan Xan would be done for, so he gritted his teeth and persevered. He could see Yu Shisan's concerns, and so he fought him with his life on the line. Fortunately, Yu Shisan couldn't take it anymore, so he gave up. Lin Yi gritted his teeth, tore the ropes on Guan Xan's body, and tore the seal on her mouth. Lin Yi! Guan Xan cried out as tears streamed down her cheeks. Lin Yi waved his hand and interrupted Guan Xan. I can't hold on much longer. Tang Yan's car is just outside the door, under the shade of the tree. After that, Lin Yi fell to the ground this time. Lin Yi could no longer stand up because Lin Yi was sure that Right 13 had left, so he had no scruples in his heart and could no longer hold on. Apart from his palms, there was not a single part of his body that was not injured. The moment he fainted, Lin Yi also entered the space of the jade pendant. Phew! Lin Yi could finally breathe a sigh of relief. As long as he didn't lose his life, there was a possibility of recovery. After entering the space of the jade pendant, Lin Yi felt a wave of lingering fear. This time he almost lost his life. It was a complete fluke that Lin Yi was able to escape. First of all, Right 13 did not know Lin Yi's background. Seeing Lin Yi stand up again and again, he was scared by Lin Yi's madness. However, Lin Yi knew that if the person he met today was not Right 13, but someone who had a deep hatred for him, it would definitely not be easy today. Also, if Right 13 did not practice martial arts that only relied on his palms, if he supplemented it with martial arts that relied on his legs or weapons, then it would be useless for Lin, even if he risked his life today. All along, Lin Yi had been conceited that he could fight opponents who were of a higher level than him. He relied on his trump card of condensing qi. This trump card allowed Lin Yi to be successful in every endeavor. Even when facing masters who were stronger than him, he was still calm. However, today it made Lin Yi feel deeply frustrated. Above the earth stage, it was completely different. If the opponent had martial arts and started fighting as soon as they came up, then Lin Yi would have no advantage at all. He could only rely on his hot-bloodedness to fight with the opponent. This time he was lucky. Next time he might die. For the first time, Lin Yi had a deep desire and expectation for martial arts. Without martial arts to compete with the opponent, it was difficult for him to move forward. But to find a martial technique that was suitable for him to cultivate, it was even more difficult. Lin Yi had not touched the essence of Faubert's martial arts. He only cultivated it roughly. If he really fought with the opponent, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Just like today, if it was not for Lin Yi's ability to quickly recover from his injuries, he would have died long ago. The art of dragon mastery must have the existence of a martial arts technique that went with it. Only a martial arts technique that was compatible with the mantra could exert the greatest effect. This was also the reason why Faubert did not advise Lin Yi to casually cultivate martial arts. Right now, Lin Yi could not wait to return home. He wanted to open the second layer of the stone door. He wanted to see what kind of benefits awaited him behind the second layer of the stone door. It would be best if there was a powerful martial arts technique that could solve Lin Yi's current problem. As for Jiao Yazi, Lin Yi was too lazy to ask. At the moment, his memory had not been unlocked, so Lin Yi could not get any information from him. What he wanted to know, he already knew. There was no need to ask anymore. Therefore, the first thing Lin Yi did after entering the space of the jade pendant was to cultivate. Guan Xan looked at Lin Yi on the ground. For a moment, she did not know what to do. But when she remembered Lin Yi's last sentence, she hurriedly carried Lin Yi on her back. She did not know where a weak girl like her got her strength from. Although Lin Yi was not heavy, it was still a bit of a stretch for Guan Xan. But Guan Xan did it, and did it without any pressure at all. She even forgot about Lin Yi's weight. She only had one thought in her mind, and that was to be moved. Deeply moved. She never would have thought that Lin Yi would risk his life to save her. All this while, although Guan Xan had a crush on Lin Yi did not respond to her at all. He only treated her as a friend. This made Guan Xien feel a little disappointed. But at this moment, Guan Xien realized how important she was to Lin Yi. Lin Yi's strength was obviously not as strong as Yu San, but Lin Yi risked his life to save her. Guan Xien really did not know how to repay Lin Yi. She only knew that if Lin Yi was fine, she could even die in his place. Looking at Lin Yi's dying body, Guan Xien was scared. She was really scared. She was afraid that she would never see Lin Yi again. She would feel guilty for the rest of her life. Guan Xien quickly ran out of the arena with Lin Yi on her back. Kong Mingming's car was long gone. Guan Xien looked around and saw a Jeep Cherokee under the shade of a tree not far away. It must be Lin Yi's car. The people in the car saw Guan Xien coming out with Lin Yi on her back and quickly got out of the car. Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Yushu were also very anxious. They saw that Yu San drove away with Kong Mingming, and Lin Yi didn't come out for a long time. They were worried, but Lin Yi told them not to go and check. They could only wait patiently. #target=_blank. Chapter 1747. Chapter 1752. Apology, but when they saw Guan Xien coming out of the arena with Lin Yi on her back, they couldn't hold it in anymore and ran over to her. Lin Yi. Tang Yin couldn't help but scream when she saw Guan Xien's unconscious body covered in blood. What's wrong with him? He got hurt trying to save me. Guan Xien's tears hadn't dried yet, and she couldn't hold it in any more. Meng Yao and the others didn't look too good after hearing Guan Xien's words. How could they be happy that Lin Yi had gotten so heavily injured just to save Guan Xien? Tang Yin had always thought of Guan Xien as a love rival, and she wasn't as close to her as she was to Meng Yao. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, didn't like Guan Xien at all. Lin Yi got hurt in the bank because of her, and now he was doing it again. Give me Lin Yi. Meng Yao didn't want Guan Xien to carry Lin Yi anymore. We rushed back from the journey for you, and Lin Yi got hurt like this. Tang Yin's face darkened as well, but she still spoke up. Forget it, Yao Yao. This isn't the time to talk about responsibility. Let's get Lin Yi home first. Aren't we going to the hospital? Guan Xien was surprised. No need, Meng Yao said coldly. She didn't know why, but Meng Yao wasn't happy. What was the relationship between Lin Yi and Guan Xien? Why would he risk his life to save her? But Meng Yao felt like she was the eunuch panicking instead of the emperor. Tang Yin didn't say anything, so why was she panicking? Right, she was fighting for Tang Yin. That's it, Meng Yao thought. Guan Xien could see Meng Yao's hostility towards her, and she didn't know what to do. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Guan Xien was worried about Lin Yi, and now she couldn't hold it in anymore. She was worried about Lin Yi too, and she didn't want Lin Yi to be like this. But she couldn't say anything, and she couldn't stop them. All right, Guan Xien sis, we're not blaming you. Tang Yin knew that as long as Lin Yi wasn't dead, there was hope for him to recover. This had happened many times in the past, so she wasn't too worried about him. Seeing that Lin Yi was still breathing, her tone became better. Yao Yao is also very anxious, but he came to save you. It was his own decision. You don't need to feel too guilty. Meng Yao rolled her eyes at Tang Yin's words. I'm fighting for you, and you're soft-hearted again. But Tang Yin was soft-hearted, and Meng Yao knew that Xiao wouldn't have become Lin Yi's small wife if it weren't for that, and she and Yushu wouldn't have allowed Lin Yi to stay in the villa. And so Meng Yao didn't say anything else. She was a soft-hearted person, and after hearing Tang Yin's words, she realized that it was Lin Yi's decision to save Guan Xien. So it wasn't Guan Xien's fault. Meng Yao put Lin Yi in the car, and the driver was Guan Xiumin's house. She wasn't too happy with Guan Xien, but Lin Yi was in a situation like this, and Xiumin was the only one who could save him if something happened to him. Lin Yi could heal himself, but he was worried that accidents might happen. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I got kidnapped. Guan Xan said guiltily. It's nothing. My attitude just now wasn't very good. I'm sorry. Meng Yao didn't want to put Lin Yi in a difficult position, so she didn't say anything. She was different from Tang Yin, who'd interacted with Guan Xan a couple of times, but Meng Yao and Guan Xan were just acquaintances. Lin Yi can heal himself, but we'll have to ask your grandpa to check if there's anything else. Tang Yun explained. Of course, we'll do our best. Guan Xan nodded. I don't think it's necessary. Shield Bro's looking better and better. He's probably healing himself now. Yushu had been paying attention to Lin Yi's changes on the road. Oh, that's great. Tang Yin turned around to look at Lin Yi, and as expected, Lin Yi looked much better than before. Tang Yin let out a breath of relief. Guan Xian's tense heart relaxed after hearing Yushu's words. As long as Lin Yi was fine, everything was fine. Otherwise, she'd die of guilt for the rest of her life. Guan Shuamin was happy when he heard that his granddaughter was fine, but he was shocked when he heard that Lin Yi was on the verge of death. He rushed out of the villa and looked at Lin Yi with a serious expression. Is it that serious? Grandpa Guan, Lin Yi can heal himself. He should be fine now. Don't worry too much. Tang Yin was very polite to Guan Shuamin. She knew that he was Lin Yi's business partner, so he was also Lin Yi's elder. We came here to wait and see. If there are any other problems, we'll ask for your help. After all, Lin Yi's injury is the most serious this time. Okay. Guan Shuamin didn't find it strange that Lin Yi could heal himself. Lin Yi was a doctor, and a miracle doctor at that. It wasn't strange that he could heal himself, but it was the first time Guan Shuamin heard that he could heal himself by lying down. However, Lin Yi was a practitioner, and he couldn't be judged by common sense. Guan Shuamin quickly helped Tang Yin and the others move Lin Yi to the villa. After settling Lin Yi, Meng Yao and the others sat in the living room, and the atmosphere became a little awkward. Although Tang Yin said that she didn't blame Guan Xian on the way here, Guan Xian still felt uncomfortable. Lin Yi suffered so much for her, and she didn't know how to repay Lin Yi. For a girl, especially a beautiful girl, repaying a hero with her body was the best way to repay a hero. It sounded a little cliché, but it was a principle that never changed. The hero saved the beauty, and the beauty loved the hero. In Guan Xian's heart, she had a good impression of Lin Yi. But now, even if Guan Xian wanted to repay him with her body, Tang Yin wouldn't agree. Guan Xian was older, after all, and had been working for quite some time. She had more experience in society than Tang Yin and the others, and she could tell with one look that Meng Yao and Yushu were interested in Lin Yi. Of course, they could also be good friends. Guan Xian was just a woman's intuition. Tang Yin, I've troubled Lin Yi this time. Because of my family's matters, I've caused him to get injured. I'm really sorry. Guan Shuamin sighed and said, I'd like to apologize for delaying your trip. #target=_blank. Chapter 1748. Chapter 1753. Wake up, Grandpa Guan, you're exaggerating. Tang Yin stood up in a panic. Guan Xan is Lin Yi's good friend, and this was Lin Yi's decision as well. You don't need to explain to us. Lin Yi's decision is one we support. Besides, didn't we get out of danger this time? Although Lin Yi's injuries are quite serious, he can still recover on his own. Meng Yao and Yushu were a little embarrassed by the words, and Meng Yao added in, Yeah, Lin Yi's always been a hot-blooded man to his friends. When Shu and I were kidnapped, he was the one who risked his life to protect us. The misunderstanding and awkwardness between the two disappeared in an instant. Thinking about it, Lin Yi got injured when he helped Tang Yin and when he saved Meng Yao and Shu. This was Lin Yi's personality, and it wasn't worth it to hurt their relationship. The only thing they could do now was wait for Lin Yi to wake up. Lin Yi was lying on the bed, but he knew what was going on outside. He let out a sigh of relief when he heard that the people outside were no longer arguing about him. It was indeed dangerous this time, and Lin Yi would have to think twice if something like this happened again in the future. A battle between Earth-class masters was different from a mystic class. Once they used their techniques, the situation would be different. If Lin Yi were to be as impulsive as before, he'd definitely be at a disadvantage. With the idea of opening the second stone door, Lin Yi couldn't wait to return home. He worked hard to heal his injuries, but Lin Yi's injuries were too serious this time. Even though Lin Yi was an Earth class now, and his recovery speed was much faster than when he was a Mystic class, it still took him one day and one night to fully recover. When Lin Yi came out of the space of the jade pendant, it was already the evening of the next day. Meng Yao, Yu Shu, Tang Yin, Guan Xuemin, and Guan Xan didn't sleep at all. They had ordered takeout during the day, but Lin Yi didn't wake up. No one had an appetite, so the food was piled up on the coffee table. However, after a night of not resting, everyone was exhausted. Therefore, they closed their eyes and rested, but they didn't fall asleep. Lin Yi walked out of the living room and saw everyone in the living room. He couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. There's so much delicious food. Haven't you eaten? Are they all waiting for me? I'm starving. If you don't eat, I'll eat it all. Lin Yi, you're awake? Guan Xian was the one who felt the most guilty. She didn't understand Lin Yi the most. Tang Yun and Meng Yao both said that Lin Yi was fine, and that he could recover on his own. But Guan Xian wasn't so sure. Even when she was resting, she was still worried. When she heard Lin Yi's voice, she was the first to jump up. She looked at Lin Yi in surprise. You're fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he looked at his bloody clothes. Let's eat something first, then take a shower and change my clothes. You guys don't mind, do you? Of course not. Guan Xian looked at the energetic Lin Yi and shook her head excitedly. See, I told you that Shield Bro was fine. He's the best. Yu Shu had been the calmest person from the start. She had an inexplicable confidence in Lin Yi. Are we going to find Kong Mingming for revenge now? Revenge? Of course we will, but not now. Lin Yi's eyes sharpened. He didn't know why House Kong had invited an Earth class. He didn't know what their relationship was with House Kong. Even if Lin Yi wanted to take revenge, he had to think twice. He was lucky enough to escape this time, but he wouldn't be so lucky if he was surrounded by 2 or more Earth class masters. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Lin Yi knows what he's doing. Meng Yao didn't want Yushu to get into trouble. It's fine, haha. Lin Yi smiled. He picked up a drumstick and started eating. Right, Xian, who's that Earth class master? Did Kong Mingming mention him before? He didn't. Guan Xian thought about it carefully and shook her head. That master seemed to be a man of few words. He didn't speak at all. He only responded a few times when Kong Xiaoming talked to him, but he didn't address him as well. Lin Yi nodded. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to get any useful information from Guan Xian. He could only try to find out from the side. Elder Guan, let's keep a low profile for the company. I'll talk to Fatty Lai. We shouldn't have any conflicts with House Kong for now. We'll talk about it when I come back. Lin Yi's trip back to his hometown this time was to bring Tang Yin and Meng Yao on a vacation. But in reality, it was to open the second stone door. As a result, Lin Yi couldn't allow any mishaps. He wouldn't be able to take care of Songshan's situation when he got to West Star Village. The medical company, on the other hand, kept a low profile for now. As long as they didn't have any conflicts with House Kong, there shouldn't be any problems. After all, House Kong had gotten the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. It would be extremely difficult for them to develop the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If they focused all their energy on this, they wouldn't have the time to cause trouble for Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. This gave Lin Yi some breathing space. As long as he could catch his breath, he'd be able to turn the tables and wash away the humiliation he'd suffered. After all, Lin Yi was very confident in the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. The first stage was already very overpowered. How strong would the second stage be? I understand, Yi. Don't worry, we won't act rashly when you're not here, Guan Shuamin said. Haha, let's eat. It was a close shave this time. Yunyan, Yao Yao, Shu, what's with your faces? Lin, he said as he ate. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Lin, he was fine. They were starting to feel hungry, and so they started eating with Lin Yi inside House Kang's villa. Yu Jintian came and sat in the main seat in the living room. Behind him was Yu San. Opposite him was House Kang's old man, Dr. Kong. Behind Dr. Kong was Kong Mingming. The cooperation between House Yu and House Kong was quite successful. Although Yu San was injured in the end, they got the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. I thought it was some good stuff. Turns out it's just a recipe for an injury medicine and a painkiller. Do you guys have to be like this? When Yu Jintian found out that Kong Mingming wanted these two recipes, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hashtag target equals _ blank. Kong Mingming said excitedly, in the future, our Kong family will rely on the Yu family. For the Yu family and the Kong family, this cooperation was a win-win situation. Both sides had obtained the benefits they wanted. As for Lin Yi, he was ready to embark on his journey again. Elder Guan, Xin will be leaving now. We won't disturb you anymore. If there's anything, call us anytime. Lin Yi and the others finished their lunch and were ready to leave. Okay, be careful on the road, Guan Shuamin said. Guan Xian stood at the side, wanting to say something, but hesitating. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't because Tang Yun and Meng Yao were there. Xin, what do you want to say? Lin Yi saw Guan Xian's strange expression and asked. Aye. Guan Xian pursed her lips, not knowing what to say. Hee, Yunyan Yao Yao, Shu, wait for me in the car. Lin Yi saw that Guan Xian didn't want to say it in front of others, so he ordered. Okay. Tang Yun wasn't jealous. Since Lin Yi saved Guan Xian, it was enough to show how important Guan Xian was in Lin Yi's heart. However, the two hadn't developed into a couple yet, so Tang Yun wasn't too worried. If they wanted to develop, they would have done so long ago. It wasn't something that could be changed in a short period of time. If they really wanted to develop, she wouldn't be able to stop it. Meng Yao and Yushu didn't say anything. From their point of view, Guan Xian probably wanted to say some words of thanks in private, so they got in the car with Tang Yun. Can you say it now? Lin Yi smiled. Guan Xian blushed, a little embarrassed. I'm going to quit my job soon to study more advanced medical knowledge. I won't be able to see you before I leave, so I wanted to say goodbye in advance. Oh? You've made up your mind? Lin Yi knew about Guan Xian. Yes, I'll be leaving in a few days, Guan Xian said. Study hard and improve every day. Lin Yi wanted to encourage Guan Xian, but that was all he could think of. Guan Xian couldn't help but smile. I'm not a kid anymore, of course, I'll work hard. That's a good thing. And it's also one of Grandpa Guan's wishes, Lin Yi said. Yeah. Lin, I'm going to study. It might be pretty strict. I don't think I'll have time to come back often. We won't be able to see each other often. Guan Xian lowered her head, a little embarrassed. After a while, she mustered up all her courage and said, Wait for me to come back. I'll be your assistant for sure. Lin Yi paused, then smiled. Okay, I'll wait for you. Medical knowledge was only a support to Lin Yi. It was what Lin Yi was after. But since Guan Xian had this thought, he didn't want to discourage her. Guan Xian nodded. Then goodbye, have a safe journey. Okay. Lin Yi didn't say anything else and got in the car. As for what Guan Xian and Lin Yi talked about, Tang Yun and the others didn't ask. Everyone had their own thoughts, and asking too much would make it seem like they didn't trust Lin Yi. Before she left, Meng Yao gave Pingzhan a call. She hadn't gone home yet, and while it was only halfway through, she still had to let her family know. "Hello? Yao Yao, what do you need from Daddy?" Pingzhan's voice sounded very excited after the call was connected, as if he had found something good. "Daddy, something happened on the way, so we came back. We're in Songshan now, we haven't left yet. Where are you? Should we go see you?" Meng Yao asked. "I'm busy at the company, so don't come." "Go have fun. I've been too busy lately. I can't spend time with you guys," Pingzhan said. On the other side of the phone, someone was saying something to Pingzhan. "That's fine, Daddy. Take care of yourself. Don't overwork yourself," Meng Yao reminded. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1750. Don't worry. Daddy's big project is starting to pay off. It's only been a few days, and the company's cash flow has more than doubled. Ha! Pingzhan couldn't help but laugh as he spoke. "All right. Congratulations." Meng Yao didn't know much about the company's operations, but earning money was a good thing after all. "All right, Yao Yao, enjoy yourself. Daddy needs to do something. There's something I need to do here," Pingzhan said. "Okay, bye, Daddy." Meng Yao hung up and shook her head. She turned to Lin Yi. "Let's go. Daddy's too busy. He doesn't have time." Lin Yi wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything after some hesitation. He didn't know much about business, but he'd overheard Meng Yao's conversation from the sidelines. It didn't make sense for a company like Pingzhan to be able to double their capital in such a short amount of time. Pingzhan Industries wasn't a tech company. They didn't have any inventions, so there was no way they could double their capital in such a short amount of time. But Pingzhan was a veteran in the business world, and he shouldn't make any mistakes. Pingzhan Industries received a call from Meng Yue just as he hung up. "Bro, and how's it going?" Pingzhan asked. "Haha, congratulations. We've earned another 10% from our investment." And Meng Yue said proudly, "No way. We earned that much again," Pingzhan said surprised. Of course, this trader is a master Jiang Wen met when he was studying abroad. He's quite familiar with the futures market. And Meng Yue said, "If he hadn't offended someone overseas, he wouldn't have come to me, then. Should we increase our investment?" Pingzhan asked, a little tempted. "Forget it, it's just for fun. We all have our own businesses, it's fine." And Meng Yue said, "Plus, Bro Chu, do you still have money? All your businesses are real estate, right?" "That's true. I'll think about it," Pingzhan said, a little regretful. "Okay, that's all for now. I'll let you know if there's any news." And Meng Yue said, "All right, thanks for the trouble, bro," and Pingzhan said quickly, after hanging up, and Meng Yue gave Jiang Wen a thumbs up. "Jiang Wen, that's a good idea. You've tricked Chu Pingzhan step by step, and it's just as you expected. He's going to invest more. Of course. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a huge profit?" Jiang Wen said, "Let's wait a bit longer. We'll provoke him a bit more in a couple of days. I think he'll act up soon." But what if he stops while he's ahead? Won't we lose money?" And Meng Yue was a little worried. After all, it was all just a story and Meng Yue had made up, and the money Pingzhan had brought over was still in Meng Yue's company account, and Meng Yue had only told Pingzhan about it when she saw that it was making money. "Don't worry, father. The hypnotist has already given him a hint. He'll go crazy for sure," Jiang Wen said without worry. "At that time, the entire Pingzhan Industries will be ours." "And I'm relieved now that you've said that." And Meng Yue nodded. On this day, Lin Yi and the others arrived at a small town near the highway. They were planning to eat and stay for the night. They were getting closer and closer to West Star Village. Lin Yi didn't travel day and night. He was a practitioner, but Tang Yun and the others weren't. They wouldn't be able to rest well in the car, and they'd be very tired the next day. Plus, they'd stayed at various small towns, and they'd stroll around the town's market at night. This was also Meng Yao and Yushu's first time on a road trip. They used to travel a lot, but they didn't know how to drive, so they'd never experienced this kind of stop-and-go experience. At night, they had dinner near the Express Hotel, and as usual, they went to the town's night market. There weren't many shops in the town, only a huge market. Here, they could buy all sorts of things. Meng Yao and the others lived in a big city, so they hadn't experienced it before. However, this place wasn't too different from a night market. Of course, the market mostly sold local products and daily necessities. It wasn't like the city's night market that sold snacks and trinkets. As for local specialties, they no longer bought any. The trunk of the car was already full. Originally, they planned to buy some local specialties every time they went to a place, but as they bought and bought, they unknowingly had too much. If they bought any more, they would not be able to fit it all. So, they were just here to watch. I heard that the bastard hunted today and killed a legendary black phoenix? Black phoenix? I think it's wild. Who knows? But the price is so high, only an idiot would buy it. Yeah, even if it's a phoenix, it can't fly after eating it. You only know how to eat. He killed it. What else can it do other than eat? That's true. Lin Yi and the others were walking around the market, looking at the local specialties, when they overheard two stall owners talking at a nearby stall. Out of curiosity, Lin Yi asked casually, "What's a black phoenix?" "Who knows? I heard it's a black phoenix, a spirit beast in the dark night mountain. Of course, it's just a legend. I think it's a black chicken," the stall owner answered casually. Oh, Lin Yi was just asking casually, but when he heard it was a spirit beast, his heart skipped a beat. Spirit beast? What's that? Is it like those animals in the novels that can fly? Spirit beast? I don't know what a spirit beast is, but the older generation said that there are spirit beasts on this mountain, but they're very rare. It's said that drinking their blood can prolong one's life. The stall owner said, "As for what you're talking about, I've never heard of it." "Okay, thank you." Lin Yi nodded. "Shield bro, are you going to see that black phoenix?" Yushu guessed Lin Yi's intention when she saw him stand up. "Yeah, I want to join in the fun." Lin Yi didn't say it clearly. "It's over there. You guys can go take a look, but that thing, hee, only an idiot would buy it." The stall owner pointed at a direction in the market. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. He brought Tang Yin and the others to the direction the stall owner pointed to. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1751. As expected, there was a group of people surrounding a stall to watch the show. Behind the stall stood a burly man. Above his head was a signboard with the words, "Wangba Hunter's Specialty" written on it. Beside Wangba was a chopping board. On the chopping board, there were some beast carcasses. There were wild boars, robes, pheasants, etc. But at the front of the chopping board, the most conspicuous place, there was a black, pheasant-like animal carcass. "I say, Wangba, are you crazy for money? Is this a black phoenix?" A young man pointed at the black pheasant's carcass and said to the man called Wangba, "I've checked the catalog. This is clearly the legendary black phoenix. If you don't want to buy it, just stand aside and watch. There will always be someone who knows." Wangba didn't seem to want to argue with the young man. TCH, the black phoenix, is a legendary spirit beast. Although I do not know what a spirit beast is, since it is a spirit beast, it must be very powerful. With your level of skill, you think you can kill a spirit beast? The young man said, unconvinced. Wangba was embarrassed, but he said, "If you say it's not, then it's not. I'll sell it just like this. 10,000, take it or leave it. If not, I'll go home and eat it myself." Lin Yi looked at the black phoenix and frowned. Lin Yi also came from a mountain village. His little brother Gooden's family was a hunter, so Lin Yi had some understanding of pheasants. This thing in front of him was definitely not a pheasant. Although the two were similar, they were definitely different. Lin Yi didn't know what it was exactly, so he couldn't rule out the possibility of it being a spirit beast. As for Wangba being able to kill spirit beasts, it wasn't surprising. Spirit beasts like the skybolt pig that didn't have any attack abilities were easy to kill. Not all spirit beasts had attack abilities. Moreover, Spirit beasts had different levels of strength. However, Lin Yi was a little confused. There were spirit beasts nearby. Generally, the places where spirit beasts appeared were places with extremely dense heaven and earth spiritual qi. Those places were often occupied by sects and clans. Could it be that there were sects nearby? 10,000 yuan. Although it wasn't a lot for Lin Yi, it was already a sky-high price for these simple mountain people. Therefore, they looked at Wang Laolu with ridicule. Most of the people nearby were here to watch the show, but there wasn't anyone who was interested in buying it. If Wang Laolu was sold for a few hundred yuan, someone might buy it to try it. However, it was not worth it to buy a pheasant for 10,000 yuan. Is this a phoenix? Lin Yi asked. Wang Laolu had faced too many questions today, so he didn't want to answer Lin Yi's question. However, when he looked up, he saw that Lin Yi and the others were obviously wearing big city clothes. They must be a few tourists from other places, so his eyes lit up. Maybe these city people knew their stuff, so he introduced them with a smile. You are tourists from other places, right? Yeah, that's why I'm curious. Lin Yi nodded with a smile. That's right, you don't know the legend around here. Wang Laolu said seriously, the town we live in is called Dark Night Town, and there's a mountain nearby called Dark Night Spirit Mountain. The mountain range around it is called Dark Night Mountain, and that's where I hunt. Dark Night Spirit Mountain? Lin Yi paused. Why did it sound like an ice mountain? Was it really a place with dense qi? There were spirit beasts in the ice mountain. Naturally, Lin Yi knew about this. For example, the white python that Chi-Chi had met was a spirit beast. At least, Lin Yi didn't know of any other species that was the same as the white python. It was a snake, but it wasn't a snake. The skybolt pig beside Lin Yi was the same. It was a pig, but it didn't really look like one. How could there be such a small pig? It was like the chibi pig in the manga. These were all mutated spirit beasts that lived in places with dense qi. Zhang Liju's tomb was the same. Yes, according to the older generation, a long time ago, there was a sect on the Dark Night Spirit Mountain called the Dark Night Palace. It was a very powerful sect. The people there were all martial arts masters, and they could live forever. Old Wang said, and near the Dark Night Palace, there were some spiritual beasts. These spiritual beasts were different from normal beasts. They had intelligence, and could become immortals just like the people of the Dark Night Palace. Among them, the most famous was a black phoenix called the Dark Phoenix. Legend has it that those who eat the Dark Phoenix can live forever. Wang Laolu, are you trying to scare people with the fairy tales that put your kids to sleep? Beside Wang Laolu's stall, a woman selling goods at a hunter's stall couldn't help but tease him. Today, Wang Laolu had hunted a strange pheasant, and while he didn't sell it, he did sell quite a lot of other beasts. It affected his business, and the woman wasn't too happy about it. Fairy tales aren't necessarily fake. Didn't you hear this story when you were young? You grew up with a naked baby and listened to a grandpa selling popcorn telling stories under the shade of a big tree. Didn't you believe it too? Wang Laolu retorted. And like I said, it's from the older generation. It's not like I made it up. What are you so worried about? Humph. The woman didn't know what to say, but she still humphed. All right, Uncle Wang, can you continue? Lin Yi smiled. I think it's quite interesting. All right, then let's continue. They say that people who eat the Dark Phoenix can live forever, and they can even become Wulin masters. Wang Laolu said, if it's that good, why don't you eat it yourself? The woman curled her lips in disdain. It's useless for a rough person like me to eat it, and I don't know how to eat it. It's better to sell it for money. Wang Laolu's face turned red. In fact, he didn't really believe in legends. Or else why would he sell it? Sounds good. Let's buy it then. Can you make it cheaper? Lin Yi asked calmly, but in his heart he was in a state of shock. The legend might not be groundless. On the Dark Night Spiritual Mountain, there might really be a Dark Night Palace. Perhaps it was in existence similar to the Ice Palace, that kind of ancient sect, but they didn't come into contact with the secular world. So these people thought it was just a legend. It's not cheap. I, Wang Laolu, have already said it. If I can't sell it for 10,000, I'll take it back and put it into soup. Wang Laolu was a straightforward person, and he cared about his reputation. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1752. I see. Have you been to that Dark Night Spirit Mountain? Linny asked. Who would dare to go there? It's the middle of the mountain, and in the middle of the Dark Night Mountain there's a natural moat. It's a ring-shaped ravine, so deep that you can't see the bottom. Who can climb over it? Wang Laolu shook his head. Plus, it's always shrouded in mist. I'm afraid you won't be able to come back. I see. Lin nodded. So you're saying that the Black Phoenix came from there? Of course, you didn't see how high it flew. It's quite high. Luckily, I'm an experienced hunter. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to catch it. Wang Laolu bragged proudly. Who doesn't know how to brag? The woman couldn't help but say. Haha, fine. If that's the case, I'll buy it and try it. Lin nodded and took out a stack of cash from his backpack. He passed it to Wang Laolu. You really bought it? Wang Laolu couldn't believe his eyes. He earned 10,000 yuan in a blink of an eye. Yes, I'll try it on the road. Haha. Linny laughed. In fact, he didn't know why he spent 10,000 yuan on this so-called Black Phoenix. However, when he saw the Black Phoenix, the jade seemed to give him a strong hint, and he had the urge to buy it. Okay. Wang Laolu was overjoyed. He quickly packed up the Black Phoenix and gave it to Linny. He took the 10,000 yuan, as if he was afraid that Lin would regret it. After Lin bought the Black Phoenix, he didn't stop. He brought Tang Yin, Chu Mengyao, and Shu back to the hotel. Wang Laolu kept the 10,000 yuan under everyone's envious eyes. To the people of the town, this was not a small amount of income. As for the woman at the stall next to them, she was incomparably jealous. Fortunately, the onlookers had all dispersed, and her business had also recovered. Just when everyone was sighing at Wang Laolu's luck, Lin was already targeted. Shield bro, this doesn't look like the way back to the hotel. Did you remember wrongly? Yushu noticed that Lin seemed to be walking further and further away until he came to a very remote place. There were no villages or shops in front of him, and all he could see was a field of crops. Lin stopped and turned around, blocking Tang Yun, Mengyao, and Yushu behind him. You've been following us for so long, shouldn't you come out now? Behind Lin 3 people suddenly appeared on the empty path. They were all masked and dressed in black. The leader seemed surprised that Lin had discovered them. How did you discover us? You've been following me since the market. If I didn't realize it, wouldn't I be too slow? Lin didn't answer the man's question directly. Instead, he asked a question of his own. You even know this? The leader was surprised. Kid, if you've discovered us, then so be it. If that's the case, then take out all your belongings. TSK, 10,000 to buy a wild chicken. You're really rich. If you don't share some with us, it'll be unforgivable. You're here and you're not running away. Instead, you're asking for money. I've never seen someone as stupid as you. Lin shook his head. What do you mean? The leader paused. Why don't you take a look at where we are? Do you think a tourist would come to a place like this in the middle of the night? 3 golden class masters. Lin asked faintly. You. Who are you? The leader felt that something was wrong. Yeah, Lin and these tourists. What were they trying to do by coming to a place like this? And when Lin pointed out their strengths, the leader finally understood that they weren't good people. They probably lured them here on purpose. Otherwise, if they dared to lure them here knowing that they were golden class masters, then they must have something up their sleeves. Tourists. Lin answered faintly. What about you guys? Robbing? The robbers here are really strong. Golden class masters. Usually, golden class masters would be bodyguards for rich people. This kind of robbing was not skillful and dangerous. How could it compare to being a guard? Therefore, he was very confused about their identities. We are members of the Crazy Horse Gang. Are you one of them too? The leader's tone towards he was obviously different. He slightly activated the art of dragon mastery. The strength of the early phase of Earth class flashed. This was to intimidate these people so that they wouldn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, from their tone, they seemed to belong to a local gang, a type of horse gang. There seemed to be quite a number of them. But thinking about it, there was a spirit mountain nearby, and the spirit chi of heaven and earth was abundant. It wasn't strange for some people to gather in the vicinity and borrow the spirit chi to rob foreign merchants. As long as they didn't affect the local residents, they wouldn't reject the Crazy Horse Gang. But he didn't want to cause any trouble on the journey. He wasn't afraid of himself. But if he brought 3 girls who had no strength, it wouldn't be fun if they were ambushed by a group of horse gangs. Therefore, he showed his strength. With the strength of an early phase of Earth class, these people wouldn't dare to act rashly no matter how daring they were. Unless they were stupid and didn't know the difference between Golden class and Earth class. Earth class early phase. Just as Lini had expected, after a flash of shock passed through the leader's eyes, his tone became even more respectful. Senior, are you a guest of the Dark Palace? You know of the Dark Palace? He asked without changing his expression. This wasn't the first time he'd heard of this name. But he didn't know what the Dark Palace was. He could only get some information from the horse gang. The Crazy Horse Gang that I'm with makes a living here. So, of course, I know about the Dark Palace. The man said. We're only at the outskirts of the Dark Mountain. We won't enter the Dark Mountain's perimeter. Senior, please don't tell the Dark Palace about what happened today. If it causes trouble for the Crazy Horse Gang, then I'll be a sinner. But don't worry, Senior. I'll prepare a generous gift for you. I hope Senior won't cause trouble for my gang. After seeing Lin Yi's strength, this person didn't even have the thought of fighting against Lin Yi. The leader of the Crazy Horse Gang was only an early phase of Mystic Class Master. In front of Lin Yi, he was just going to die. Their actions here were tacitly approved by the Dark Palace. As long as they didn't enter the perimeter of the Dark Mountain, the Dark Palace wouldn't bother them. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1753. But this person was afraid that if Lin Yi provoked them, then the Wild Horse Gang would be wiped out. That was why he kept his voice low. There's no need for the gift. Let's forget about it. I'm just a guest, so I won't say anything. He didn't say what kind of guest he was. He could be a guest of the Ice Palace or a tourist from the town. Thank you. The man cupped his fists in relief. From what he could see, He was an Earth class master. If he said he wouldn't care, then naturally he wouldn't care about these Golden class masters. After thanking him, they left in a hurry. Lin Yi, on the other hand, took a deep breath. It seemed like there really was an ancient sect here called the Dark Palace. How did it compare to the Ice Palace? But even knowing this, Lin Yi didn't have the intention to visit. Putting aside the fact that he was only an Earth class early phase that was already unreachable in the eyes of the bandits. But after witnessing the strength of the Ice Palace, he knew that his strength was only at the level of an inner disciple. It wasn't much. Thinking about this, Lin Yi was even more curious about the black phoenix in his hand. Would it really be good to eat this thing? Let's go back, Lin Yi said to Tang Yun and the others. Shield bro, the Dark Palace that the man and the hunter talked about, do they really exist? Yushu asked curiously. I think so. Lin Yi nodded, but might be the same as the Ice Palace. Let's not ask about it. After staying here, we'll leave. Lin Yi didn't want to have too much to do with these mysterious ancient sections. At least, Lin Yi hadn't reached that level yet, so he wouldn't have anything to do with them. After the group returned to the hotel, Lin Yi started to clean up the black phoenix, preparing to make phoenix soup for everyone. For this, Lin Yi rented an induction cooker from the hotel to cook for the girls. All right, I'm going. You guys look after the pot and add water often. This thing is tough, so it needs to be cooked for a while. Lin Yi said to Tang Yin and the others. Okay, Tang Yin nodded. On the other hand, Lin Yi went back to his room. On the way, whenever he had time, Lin Yi would go. Lin Yi's strength was at the early phase of Earth class, but it wasn't as strong as the early phase. There was still some distance between the early phase and the peak of Earth class. So Lin Yi wanted to increase his strength to the early phase of Earth class after entering the stone door. That way, when he reached the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, he could quickly reach the peak early phase. The black phoenix was indeed different from normal pheasants. It had been cooked in the pot for half an hour, and it didn't look like it was cooked. But looking after the pot was something that required a lot of patience. The three girls discussed, and two of them went to the room to watch TV, leaving one to look after the pot and add water. Tang Yin stayed here first, then Yushu after half an hour, and finally Meng Yao. After about half an hour, Tang Yin was ready to change shifts. But what she saw next stunned her. All of a sudden, Meng Yao opened the lid and took out the black phoenix, putting it in her mouth and swallowing it. Yao Yao, what are you doing? Tang Yin jumped and quickly called out, but Meng Yao didn't seem to hear anything. Her eyes were closed as if she was asleep, and her whole body looked like she was sleepwalking. Yushu heard Tang Yin scream and quickly ran out. She saw Meng Yao's weird situation and also called out, Yao Yao, sis, what are you doing? Meng Yao didn't stop because of Yushu's words. She continued to put the whole black phoenix into her mouth. I'll stop her. Yushu wanted to stop Meng Yao, but Tang Yin pulled her back. Shu, hurry and find Lin Yi. Yao Yao seems to be sleepwalking. I heard that people who sleepwalk can't be woken up easily. It will cause harm to the body. Tang Yin vaguely remembered that she had read about sleepwalking in a book. Okay, I'll go find Lin Yi. Shu nodded and quickly ran to Lin Yi's room. She wanted to knock on the door, but she hesitated. Lin Yi said that he wanted to go. Would it disturb him if she knocked on the door? Shu, what's the matter? Although Lin Yi was there, he was still paying attention to the movements outside the room. Although the people from the Wild Horse Gang had left, and the chances of them coming back to cause trouble for Lin Yi were very small. Lin Yi didn't dare to let his guard down since he was always careful. However, Lin Yi didn't see the crazy horse gang, but he heard Shu's footsteps. Lin Yi's hearing was sharper than most people's, and he could distinguish the footsteps of people he was familiar with if he listened carefully, especially the way Shu was walking. Shield bro, it's bad. Yao Yao sis wants to eat it alone. Yushu heard Lin Yi's voice, so she quickly pushed the door open and said to Lin Yi, Eat it alone? What do you mean? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. You will know when you see. Yushu pulled Lin Yi out. Although Lin Yi was surprised, he still followed Yushu out of the room and went to the room next door. He was shocked by the scene in front of him. Meng Yao was swallowing the black phoenix into her stomach, and the moment Lin Yi entered the room, Meng Yao swallowed the black phoenix whole. Lin Yi was stunned, Yushu was stunned, and Tang Yin was shocked, but she didn't dare to stop it. It was hard to imagine how Meng Yao swallowed such a big black phoenix. Were her mouth and stomach that big? However, the truth was in front of him, and Lin Yi had to believe it. Yao Yao. Lin Yi tried to call, but Meng Yao didn't hear him. Her eyes were still closed, as if she was digesting the black phoenix. She stood there without moving. Lin Yi didn't know what to do with the strange scene in front of him, and he could only stand there and watch the situation unfold. After a while, Meng Yao suddenly opened her eyes, but her eyes were clear, as if she didn't see the people in the room. She turned her head and stared at one direction, and a golden color flashed in her eyes. Then her whole body emitted a golden light, and it stopped behind her, forming a pair of golden wings, shining with dazzling light. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1754. If what happened before was shocking, then what was happening now was even more shocking. They didn't know what happened to Meng Yao. Suddenly, Meng Yao let out a clear, crisp cry, like the cry of a bird. It made Lin, Yi, and the others shiver. The golden light on Meng Yao's body dimmed, and the golden wings on her back disappeared as well. She returned to her normal skin color, and with a shake of her body, she fell to the ground. The whole process lasted for about half an hour. It was only at this moment that Lin Yi dared to walk over and pick Meng Yao up from the ground. He placed her on the bed and quickly checked her body condition, but he didn't find anything out of the ordinary after checking. Meng Yao's pulse was normal, and her stomach wasn't bulging either. Her stomach was still flat. Who knew where the Black Phoenix had gone to, or if it had been digested in just half an hour? Shield bro, how's Yao Yao, sis? Yushu asked anxiously. Everything looks normal. Lin Yi shook his head and said, nothing out of the ordinary. Then just now. Tang Yin recalled what happened just now, and her heart was still pounding. It was simply too strange. It was as if Meng Yao had turned into a phoenix at that moment. Meng Yao felt like she was hallucinating. I'm not sure, maybe it's the after effects of eating the Black Phoenix. But from the looks of it, she's fine. Lin Yi said. Then, when will she wake up? Yushu asked. I'm not sure. She looks like she's asleep now. We just need to wait for her to wake up naturally. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He had never seen something like this before. He wouldn't have bought the Black Phoenix if he knew it was so strange. It'd be his fault if Meng Yao got sick from eating it. Then now Yushu let out a breath of relief when she heard that Meng Yao was fine. Right now, I don't know. But to avoid any accidents, let's wait for her to wake up on her own. Lin Yi didn't dare to forcefully wake Meng Yao up. He was afraid that something might go wrong. All right, I wanted to try that Black Phoenix, but it's so scary. It's a shame I didn't. Yushu said with a pat on her chest. Yao Yao, you're in big trouble now that you're eating it alone. That doesn't seem to be her intention. We talked to her, but she didn't answer. She didn't seem to have any self-awareness at the time. Tang Yin had been staying in the room to observe Meng Yao's movements, so she was the one who observed it the most carefully. That's true. Sister Yao Yao isn't someone who eats alone. Xiao Shu nodded and said, but the situation just now was really scary. I don't know what happened. Everything can only wait for Yao Yao to wake up. Lin Yi didn't know what was going on either. He shrugged and said, let's rest early. We won't be able to eat, haha. Yeah, let's rest then. We'll wait for Yao Yao sis to wake up tomorrow. Yushu nodded. Lin Yi had a lot of questions as well, but he couldn't get an answer right now. He could only wait until tomorrow. Perhaps that Black Phoenix really was some kind of spiritual beast, and they couldn't just eat it randomly. But Meng Yao accidentally ate it, and that led to the current situation. Fortunately, nothing else happened to Meng Yao other than the image she'd shown him. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. After returning to his room, Lin Yi continued. Lin Yi and the others, on the other hand, didn't know that something earth-shattering happened tonight. In the Palace of Darkness, when Meng Yao ate the Black Phoenix, the Great Elder hurriedly gathered Wanner, Elderly, and the other elders together. Do you guys feel anything? The Grand Elder frowned and asked, It's like the Dark Phoenix's bloodline has awakened, and it's resonating with the bloodline in my body. Wanner said carefully, could it be that there's someone else in the Palace of Darkness who has the same bloodline as me? That's impossible. If there was, I wouldn't have to push you around every day, the Grand Elder said, because you are the only inheritor of the Dark Phoenix bloodline, and the awakening of the Dark Phoenix's bloodline is related to the event after the Sky class meeting. If there was someone who could replace you, I wouldn't have grounded you. The Grand Elder was telling the truth. If there was someone who could replace she wouldn't have treated her so harshly all these years, not letting her leave the mountain at all. That's? Warner asked carefully. I don't know. At first, I thought that the Dark Phoenix's bloodline had awakened in you. But now that I'm here, I know that's not the case. The Grand Elder shook her head, a little regretful. If you hadn't lost your virginity and given birth to a bastard with an impure bloodline, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Warner lowered her head, not daring to refute. For the sake of love, she'd caused irreparable damage to the Palace of Darkness. If she had gotten together with the young master of the Sky Elixir School, the school had their own pills to ensure that the child's bloodline would be pure. And if she trained this child, she could awaken the Dark Phoenix's bloodline and become the inheritor. But now, Warner could only try her best, but she still couldn't awaken the Dark Phoenix's bloodline. All right, Elderly, let the Dark Shadow Group investigate what exactly happened to cause such a phenomenon, the Grand Elder said. Continue, we don't have much time left. You must quickly enter Sky Class. That's the only way to awaken the Dark Phoenix's bloodline. Yes, Warner replied. In the entire Palace of Darkness, only her bloodline had the Dark Phoenix's bloodline. Legend had it that her ancestor had accidentally eaten a legendary Dark Phoenix, spiritual beast, and thus had the bloodline of the Dark Phoenix in her body. She was able to receive the inheritance of the Dark Knight, Spirit Mountain, and had a chance to step into the heavenly Tao. But after many generations of reproduction, the Dark Phoenix's bloodline was very little in Warner's generation. Though each generation's inheritors tried their best to preserve the purity of the bloodline, there would always be some losses. However, it was said that the Heavenly Elixir School could ask their ancestor to concoct a bone and marrow-cleansing dam for Warner's child. However, the condition was that Warner had to marry the young master of the Heavenly Elixir School, who is now the master. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1755. Taking the pill would awaken the bloodline in the body, and there was hope of reviving the bloodline. Although it wouldn't be as powerful as the first Dark Phoenix user, it was the best way. Everything was ready, but the palace master met Pingzhan during her training, and the two eloped. They traveled all over the world, and in order to avoid the eyes and ears of the Dark Palace, especially since the Dark Shadow Group was under Elder Li's control, they purposely let things go. In the end, Warner and Pingzhan settled in Songshan and gave birth to Mengyao. They thought that she could live here peacefully for the rest of her life. But the Dark Shadow Group wasn't just Elder Li's home. The Grand Elder's power had infiltrated them as well, and so they found Warner and forcefully brought her back to the Dark Palace. But after all these years, Warner couldn't break through to Sky Class, and she couldn't awaken the bloodline in her body. One reason was because she lost her virginity early, and the other was that there was too little bloodline left in her body, and the chance of awakening it was too low. Warner's actions pissed the Grand Elder off. She completely ruined the Dark Palace's plan. Originally, the Grand Elder had planned to let Warner's child take a bone-cleansing pill to awaken the bloodline. But now, when I had given birth to Mengyao with a mortal, and because Pingzhan wasn't a practitioner, he couldn't preserve the bloodline, and so Mengyao's bloodline became even more impure. Even if she took a bone-cleansing pill, it wouldn't be able to awaken the bloodline. Plus, Warner's actions had completely severed the relationship between the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect. So how could the Sky Elixir sect concoct a bone-cleansing pill for Mengyao? With no other choice, the Great Elder could only place his last hope on one. If she didn't use a secret technique to preserve her bloodline to give birth to a daughter with another cultivator, then the bloodline of the Dark Phoenix would be severed when it came to her. But in Warner's case, not to mention whether she was willing to give birth to a daughter with another practitioner, other practitioners would not want a broken flower like Warner. That was why the highest elder had a bellyful of resentment towards Warner. She wanted to see the Palace of Darkness prosper in her lifetime so that she could live up to the old palace master's trust. But now, Warner didn't understand all this before. Now that she understood all this, she didn't regret it, but she didn't hate the great elder either. So what if he regretted? So what if he didn't regret? Nothing could be changed. She could only cultivate even harder. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had no idea what was going on in the Palace of Darkness. Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't show up again. The next morning, Meng Yao woke up as usual, but the first thing she said was, "Pot, pot, add water." Shu and Tang Yin were worried about Meng Yao last night, so they went to bed very late. They were sleeping soundly when Meng Yao woke them up. The two opened their eyes sleepily, and Yushu looked at Meng Yao in confusion. "Oh, Sister Yao Yao, what are you talking about? What pot? Didn't you guys tell me to watch the pot? I fell asleep by accident," Meng Yao said, surprised. She realized that she was lying on the bed. Shouldn't she be lying on the outer side of the room? Tang Yin was much more awake now. She couldn't help but laugh when she saw Meng Yao's situation. "Yao Yao, what happened last night? You don't even know?" "Last night? What happened?" Meng Yao paused. "Sister Yao Yao, you took everything for yourself," Yushu said. "Took everything for myself? Why would I take everything for myself?" Meng Yao was even more confused. "Sister Yao Yao, you really don't know?" Yushu saw that Meng Yao's expression wasn't fake. She remembered that Meng Yao didn't seem to be conscious yesterday, and she was even more surprised. "What do I know?" Meng Yao shook her head. "Shu, Yun Yin, what are you guys talking about? What exactly happened yesterday?" Tang Yun and Yushu looked at each other. They didn't know how to talk about what happened yesterday. They didn't know if they should talk about it or not. They could read each other's thoughts from their eyes. It was better for Lin Yi to talk about it. "Sister Yao Yao, wait, I'll go get Shield Bro." Yushu got up from the bed and ran outside. "Shu, the button on your shirt isn't fastened properly. You're naked." Tang Yin reminded. "It's fine. Shield Bro saw it anyway," Yushu said. "I mean, what if there's a waiter outside the door, cleaning the room?" Tang Yin said, helplessly. "You're right. Just fasten it first. We'll take it off later," Yushu nodded. Tang Yin and Meng Yao almost fainted. What kind of logic was Shu using? They wanted to say something, but Shu had already run out of the room. Lin Yi had been worried about Meng Yao. When Shu came, he ended his practice and ran to Meng Yao's room with Shu. Seeing Lin Yi come in, Meng Yao subconsciously pulled her collar. She wasn't wearing a bra, and from Lin Yi's vantage point he could see inside. But for some reason, Meng Yao regretted it after pulling her collar. If Lin Yi peeked, it would prove that she was charming. It was natural that he didn't look. Meng Yao was starting to wonder if she'd lost her charms after living with him. Why was this guy's self-control so strong? But she didn't know that although Lin Yi was a little perverted, he was still a gentleman. The art of dragon mastery had the effect of calming one's mind. That was why Lin Yi could be so calm in front of her and Shu. Besides, Lin Yi was a doctor. Sometimes he looked at her and Shu's body with the attitude of a doctor. He wouldn't have any other thoughts. "Yao Yao, you're awake." Lin Yi walked over and held Meng Yao's wrist, checking her carefully. Meng Yao saw Lin Yi's actions and felt even more strange. Tang Yin and Shu were already acting weird. Lin Yi checked her body as soon as he entered the room. It made Meng Yao feel like she was recovering from a serious illness. "Lin Yi, what are you doing?" "I'm not sick." "You don't remember anything about what happened yesterday?" Lin Yi had heard about it from Yushu before, but he still had to ask. "Yesterday? What happened yesterday? What's wrong with you guys? Why are you acting so weird? Why are you asking me the same question?" Meng Yao was surprised. "Lin Yi, tell me what's going on." Shu and Yun Yun seemed to be hesitating. Chapter 1761. Strange Dream, mid. Meng Yao wasn't an idiot. She knew that Tang Yun and Yushu didn't answer her questions and went to find Lin Yi. It was obvious that something shocking had happened yesterday. "Holy Hall, Yao Yao, tell me first. How did you feel last night?" Lin Yi asked instead of answering Meng Yao's question. Yesterday. Meng Yao frowned as if she was recalling yesterday's situation. After a while, she said, "Last night, the three of us agreed to look after the pot for a while. When it was my turn, I was bored and tired. I don't know why I fell asleep. I don't know what happened after that. When I woke up, I was lying on the bed, and I subconsciously asked them to look at the pot. So, you don't know anything about what happened after you fell asleep?" Lin Yi nodded. "What dream?" Lin Yi asked. I dreamt that I wasn't me." Meng Yao didn't know how to describe it. "What do you mean you weren't you?" Lin Yi paused after hearing Meng Yao's words. "It means that I'm controlling the person in the dream, but that person isn't me." Meng Yao explained ambiguously. "It's like when you're dreaming and there's Shu in your dream, and you can control Shu's body." "Wow, Yao Yao, you're so evil!" Yushu said, "Shield Bro can control Shu, ahem." Lin Yi coughed twice, not sure if he should laugh or cry. "Shu, don't mess around. Yao Yao was just making an analogy. I understand what she meant. She's the main character in the dream, not her, but she can control it. That's it." Meng Yao nodded. "I dreamt that I was the head of a very powerful sect, and everyone called me Palace Master." "Palace Master?" Lin Yi paused. Was this what they meant by, "What you think about in the day is what you dream about at night"? They just talked about the Dark Palace, and Meng Yao had a dream like this? "Yes. Everyone called me Palace Master. The weird thing was, that Palace Master didn't look like me, but we looked similar. I don't know who she was." Meng Yao continued. "What happened was that there was a ritual, and someone brought a black animal called Dark Phoenix for me to consume. And I actually swallowed the Dark Phoenix. Can you guys imagine that? I swallowed an animal the size of a wild chicken whole. Now that I think about it, how scary is that?" But the me in the dream seemed to be doing something natural. Tang Yin and Shu's faces were filled with weird expressions after Meng Yao said that. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When Meng Yao asked, "Can you guys imagine it?" everyone had the same thought. Not only could they imagine it, they saw it with their own eyes. Yesterday, Meng Yao swallowed the Dark Phoenix, and that Dark Phoenix was the Dark Phoenix Meng Yao was talking about? And then, Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Dark Phoenix, then. Then I seemed to have entered a very mysterious state. I could see the scene in the dream, and I knew that I didn't have consciousness in the dream. At that time, a golden light flashed in my eyes, and my body was surrounded by a ball of golden light. It circled around me in the dream, and then it all gathered on my back, forming a pair of golden wings. At that time, everyone was worshipping me, congratulating me for getting this Dark Phoenix bloodline. Meng Yao frowned, as if she was shocked by the scene in the dream as well. And then, Lin Yi nodded. And then, I don't think I dreamt after that. When I woke up, it was already morning. Meng Yao thought about it and said with lingering fear, "Was it scary?" It was. But Yao Yao, do you know what you did yesterday? Yushu asked. What did I do? Meng Yao asked. You swallowed the Dark Phoenix you bought yesterday. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. It was exactly the same as your dream. You just put the Dark Phoenix in your mouth and swallowed it. After that, there was a flash of gold in your eyes, and your body was covered in a golden light as well, forming a pair of golden wings. Ah! Meng Yao's eyes went wide. So, that wasn't a dream? I don't know if it was a dream or not, but the scene in the dream was very similar to what happened last time. Lin Yi said, That's why Shu said you ate it alone. No way. I just ate the Dark Phoenix I cooked yesterday. Meng Yao subconsciously touched her stomach, but there wasn't any strange feeling. Yeah, Yao Yao, was that Dark Phoenix delicious? I wanted to try it, but you drank all the soup. Yushu licked her lips and said regretfully, I love eating strange things the most. It's really me. Meng Yao blushed as she pointed at herself, embarrassed. She couldn't believe her eyes. It was you. Tang Yun nodded. We were really scared. Then, after I ate it, it was just like what I said? Meng Yao was shocked as well. Yeah, Lin Yi said. It was almost the same, but luckily, you didn't seem to have any problems. That's scary. Meng Yao couldn't imagine how she could swallow an entire dark phoenix, but Lin Yi and the others wouldn't lie to her, so the only explanation was that she really did swallow an entire dark phoenix last night. However, there wasn't any abnormality, which was unimaginable. It's not that scary, actually, Lin Yi said. It's just a little weird. Did your dream hint at something? Hint? You're saying that I got the Dark Phoenix's bloodline after swallowing the Black Phoenix? Meng Yao asked curiously. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1756. I think, from what I know, one possibility is that your dream is controlling your actions. This is what we call sleepwalking. You see something in your dream, and it's the same thing in reality, so your dream is controlling what you do in reality. Lin Yi said, from a medical point of view, there are many precedents for this. The second possibility is that your unconscious actions in reality caused you to have a dream caused by your actions. However, this possibility is relatively small because you were unconscious at the time. So how could there be a dream? Then, what's going on? If I really did consume that Black Phoenix, then could it be the Dark Phoenix in the dream? Meng Yao couldn't imagine what she'd done yesterday. Wait a sec, let me think. Lin Yi said, but he wanted to ask Jiao Yazi if he had any similar knowledge. After all, Jiao Yazi knew more than him. Jiao Lao, do you know what's going on? Lin Yi told Jiao Yazi about the situation. I have an impression, but I don't. Jiao Yazi frowned. From what I remember, there's something like this, but this part of the memory hasn't been unlocked yet. I really can't think of it, but according to my understanding, this is called the inheritance of memory. Inheritance of memory. Lin Yi paused. Inheritance again? He'd been hearing a lot about inheritance lately. That's right, Jiao Yazi said. From what I know, a person's memory is actually a set of brainwaves, and after a person dies, these brainwaves will exist in the natural world in a free form, but under certain circumstances, they'll resonate with the brainwaves of a living person and absorb them. You're saying that Meng Yao received a set of brainwaves? Lin Yi asked. You could explain it this way. For example, under certain circumstances, if two people were to do the same thing by chance, and the same brainwave was nearby, then it could be absorbed. Elder Jiao nodded and explained. Or if the brainwave frequencies of the two people were similar, for example, if they were relatives, then their brainwaves could resonate and absorb the brainwave. Actually, this is what people often say about the dead coming to us in their dreams. Of course, this is my shallow opinion. I don't know if it's correct or not. I'm just making conclusions based on my current memories. It's a little suspicious, but it does make sense. Lin Yi nodded. That means that a long time ago, someone ate a dark phoenix, the black phoenix, and Meng Yao ate the dark phoenix as well. That's why she had this dream. So you're saying that when Meng Yao ate the dark phoenix, the brainwaves were absorbed by Meng Yao? Is this 9 dark 9 dark 9? You could say that. Jiao Yazi said. Of course, you could also say that this brainwave was left behind by Meng Yao's ancestor. Didn't Meng Yao say it herself? The person in the dream is somewhat similar to her, so the possibility is higher. She fell asleep, and right next to her was the dark phoenix that her ancestor had swallowed back then. Thus, that group of brainwaves coincidentally resonated with her brainwaves, controlling her to do certain things, and even appearing in her dream. No way? Meng Yao's ancestor was a practitioner, and the head of some sect? Lin Yi said, shocked. I don't know about that. I'm just analyzing it for you. I don't know the specifics. Jiao Yazi shook his head. I'm just telling you the most likely scenario. In other words, it doesn't matter which one of these two possibilities is inheritance of memories, and Ming Yao has that dark phoenix bloodline in her as well. Lin Yi asked. I don't know. Jiao Yazi said straightforwardly. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't, maybe it's just a memory inheritance. All right? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. At the very least, Ming Yao's body didn't have any abnormalities. Lin Yi didn't really believe that she had activated some kind of inherited bloodline, but what happened yesterday was indeed unbelievable. Lin Yi said to Meng Yao after leaving the jade space, It shouldn't be a big problem, don't worry about it. It's just a dream, it doesn't mean anything. You've eaten a spirit beast, it might have strengthened your body, but there shouldn't be any side effects. As for the memory inheritance, Lin Yi didn't explain. Saying too much would only increase Meng Yao's mental burden. I see. Meng Yao heard that Lin Yi was fine, so it should be fine. After all, Lin Yi was a very skilled doctor. Lin Yi was the one who cured her a few times when she was sick. And if there's nothing else, let's go. Lin Yi had a bad feeling in his heart. The jade seemed to be urging Lin Yi to leave as soon as possible, as if something was about to happen. Lin Yi didn't want to stay any longer. Naturally, no one objected to Lin Yi's suggestion. The four of them packed up and had breakfast in the hotel before leaving. At the same time, the Dark Palace's Dark Shadow Group had started searching from the Dark Spirit Mountain. As the trump card of the Dark Palace's eyes and ears, the Dark Shadow Group was absolutely professional, so they searched very carefully. With the Dark Palace as the center, they radiated outwards. But after searching the entire Dark Night Spirit Mountain, they didn't find anything strange. The person in charge of the Dark Shadow Group immediately notified Elderly, and Elderly brought the news to the Grand Elder immediately. Other than Ming Yao's problem, Elderly and the Grand Elder didn't have much of a disagreement, but usually the two were on the same page when it came to major issues in the palace. Reporting to the Grand Elder, the Dark Shadow Group didn't find anything out of place. Elderly said, Oh, nothing out of place? The Grand Elder frowned, a little confused. Could it be that this phenomenon didn't appear in the Dark Spirit Mountain? That can't be, according to my feeling it should be nearby. That's why I thought that Wanner broke through to Sky Class, and the Dark Phoenix bloodline awakened in her. Could it be that there's someone else nearby with the Dark Phoenix bloodline who suddenly awakened and accepted the inheritance? Elderly was very puzzled as well. After all, the Dark Shadow Group didn't find anything. He believed in the Dark Shadow Group's ability, and if they didn't find anything out of place, then there really wasn't a problem. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1757. That's impossible. I would have found out long ago if there was someone with the blood in the Dark Phoenix Palace. I wouldn't have waited until now. The Grand Elder shook his head. Moreover, in Wan Er's line of descent, she is the only one left. Could it be Yao Yao? Elder Li's expression changed slightly. Yao Yao? You're talking about Meng Yao? The Grand Elder humphed. Do you think that's possible? A bastard with an impure bloodline can awaken the bloodline and accept the inheritance? I know you want to bring her back to the Dark Palace, but there's no need to do something so illogical right now. You're an old member of the Dark Palace. How could you not know if it's her or not? Elderly felt a little awkward. I'm just saying, maybe a new Dark Phoenix has been born. The Grand Elder guessed. Oh, if that's the case, then if we catch the Dark Phoenix and let one eat it, wouldn't the Dark Palace return to its former glory? Elder Li's eyes flashed as he asked. Yes, but I'm just guessing. The Great Elder said, let the Dark Shadow Group continue to search, and then send someone to the nearby town to inquire about it. See if anyone has seen any abnormalities. Yes. Elderly replied, and immediately sent people to continue to gather more information. The Dark Shadow Group's efficiency was very fast, and it didn't take long for them to report back. This news shook the entire Dark Night Palace. In the meeting room of the Dark Palace, everyone had a serious expression on their faces. That hunter Wang Laolu said he caught a dark phoenix. The Grand Elder didn't know if he was too excited or something, but his breathing was rapid. We're not sure if it's a dark phoenix or not, but he said it's the legendary dark phoenix. The leader of the Dark Shadow Group said, according to the other townsfolk, some say it's a wild, black chicken. Some say it's not. It's hard to say what it is. The elders on the stage nodded. They had never even seen the legendary dark phoenix before. There were only a few descriptions of it in the Dark Palace's journal. No one knew what it looked like exactly. Do you have a photo? The Great Elder asked. No, the town's residents don't use camera phones, and it's hard for anyone to bring a camera at night, so there are no photos left. The person in charge of the Dark Shadow Group said, in the eyes of these people, it's just a wild, black chicken. There's no need to take photos. Then where is this black phoenix now? This was what the Grand Elder was most concerned about. According to Old Six Wang, he sold the black phoenix to these 4 foreign tourists for 10,000 yuan. There were 1 man and 3 women. When they asked him about his appearance, he couldn't give a clear answer. At that time, everyone's attention was on the 10,000 yuan. Very few people noticed the 4 people's appearance, and because it was evening, the light was not clear. Old Six Wang said that the 3 girls were very beautiful, and he was too embarrassed to stare at them. The person in charge of the Dark Shadow Group said, later, when I asked about the whereabouts of these 4 people, someone saw them and said that they were heading towards the farmland in the direction of the town. I think they left the town. The Great Elder listened to the report of the person in charge of the Dark Shadow Group. His face was a little uncertain. If Old Six Wang really killed a black phoenix, and it was eaten by others, the Dark Palace would suffer a great loss. They would even want to cry. But if it wasn't, how could the strange phenomenon yesterday be explained? Continue to investigate. Check the hotel records of the town and see if there's any news. The Great Elder said, send another group of people to follow the direction they left the town. Yes. The person in charge of the Dark Shadow Group received the order and continued to investigate. As for the Great Elder and the others, they didn't leave. They had been waiting in the meeting hall for news. This was a serious matter, and no one had the mood to leave early. The investigation of the Dark Shadow Group quickly spread to the Dark Palace again. The 4 people stayed in the only small express hotel in the area. The registered name of the tenant was Ling Wan. But with the information channels of the Dark Shadow Group, they couldn't find out the specific identity of this person. They suspected that it was a fake name. Lin Yi's identity as Ling Wan was fake in the first place, and it was normal that the Dark Palace couldn't find out. But that wasn't what disappointed them. Last night, Ling Wan had rented an induction cooker from the hotel. He must have cooked the black phoenix himself. If the 4 of them ate the black phoenix together, then the purity of the bloodline wouldn't be as pure as Wan heirs. It was pointless to find it now. And so, when the Great Elder heard the news, he was extremely disappointed. It seems that the wild game they bought was the legendary black phoenix. Maybe there was some strange phenomenon when they ate it. But after the 4 of them ate it, the black phoenix wouldn't be able to inherit its bloodline. There's no point in continuing to look for it. Everyone was silent, and the most disappointed was Wan heir. If another inheritor appeared, or if she ate the black phoenix, then she wouldn't have to suffer here every day. Once she accepted the bloodline awakening and inheritance, she would become the only master of the Dark Palace. At that time, the Great Elder wouldn't interfere with her other things anymore, and she could go meet Pingzhan and Meng Yao. Keep looking. Maybe there's more than one Dark Phoenix. Ask Wang Laolu where he found the Dark Phoenix. We'll send someone to keep watch. Elder Li said to the person in charge of the Dark Shadow Group. Yes. Everyone knew that the chances were slim, but it was good to have a sliver of hope. At this time, Lin Yi had already brought Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Yushu to the West Star village. Lin Yi had a bad feeling in his heart, and so he didn't rest on the way back. Lin Yi drove the car like crazy, letting Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yin rest in the car. The three didn't know the reason, and they thought that Lin Yi wanted to go home, so they didn't say anything. In fact, even if they did, Lin Yi wouldn't know how to answer. After another day and night, the destination was right in front of them. There was no highway nearby, so the last part of the journey was unusually slow. Otherwise, with Lin Yi's speed, they would have reached the village a long time ago. Is this the place? The scenery is so beautiful. Shield bro, if you hadn't been injured last time, we would have settled here, right? Yushu looked at the green mountains and water in front of her, envious. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1758. You can handle a short vacation, but it'll be inconvenient if it gets longer. Your clothes and makeup aren't sold here, and even if you want to buy online, you'd have to drive to a faraway town to get your mail. Lin Yi said, "This village isn't developed at all. It's not too bad, actually. We don't need pretty clothes or makeup here. I'm actually looking forward to the days where the men farm and the women weave." Tang Yun said sincerely. Yushu was right. If Lin Yi hadn't recovered his strength at the last moment, they might have all returned to West Star Village. Although Tang Yun wasn't too happy about Meng Yao and Yushu coming back together, that dissatisfaction was gone with the wind. Sometimes the friendship between sisters could dissolve jealousy, but if it wasn't handled properly, it would escalate to the next level. It all depended on the person's mentality. Tang Yin accepted Meng Yao and Yushu, and the two of them accepted Tang Yin as well. Of course, it was all because of Xiao Xiao. If it weren't for Xiao Xiao, they wouldn't be able to get along so well. That day will come. Lin Yi smiled. But it's not now. Yeah, there's a lot of things we haven't solved yet, and Xiao Xiao's going to the Ice Palace as well. We all need to work hard. Tang Yin nodded. Lin Yi, what do you think I should say when I see Grandpa Lin later? I'm a little nervous. They were getting closer and closer to Star West Village, and Tang Yin was getting more and more nervous. My old man is very kind. Lin Yi smiled. I call him Old Lin, and that means he's easy to talk to. He'll be happy if I bring my wife back, right? Ugh. Tang Yun blushed. Won't he think that I'm useless? This was what Tang Yin was most worried about. She was afraid that Old Lin would think that she didn't have a family background or martial arts, that she wasn't a good match for Lin Yi. Right now, Tang Yin felt that Xiao Xiao was a good match for Lin Yi. She and Lin Yi were both strong, and it felt like they were a match made in heaven. How is that possible? Lin Yi said. Besides, didn't I tell you this time? Let's see if we can think of a way to find a set of mental cultivation methods for you, so that you can also This was what Tang Yin was looking forward to the most. If she could become a powerhouse and reach the heaven rank, her lifespan would be extended and she would be able to accompany Lin Yi forever. Most importantly, she would be able to maintain her beauty forever, forever staying at the most beautiful moment. Lin Yi wouldn't be obsessed with the new and get tired of the old. Meng Yao and Yushu didn't say anything, but they were looking forward to it as well. There were almost no cars in West Star Mountain Village, so when Lin Yi's car entered the village, it attracted a lot of attention. When they saw that the driver was Lin Yi, they became even more enthusiastic. Little E, you're back! Did he earn some money from this job? Did he strike it rich? Before, every time Lin Yi went out for a mission, he would lie and say that he was working. Only Old Lin and Gooden knew what was going on. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't tell the truth to other people. Haha, it's all right. Lin Yi smiled. Aunt Wang, your family's income is pretty good, right? You're wearing a golden bracelet? Haha, yeah, not bad, not bad. Widow Wang smiled proudly as she shook the golden bracelet on her hand. Uncle Zhang, your house looks pretty good too? You're riding electric scooters? Lin Yi greeted another uncle. Compared to your car, it's still far from it, but it's good enough that I have a car, Uncle Zhang said proudly. Lin Yi greeted the villagers one by one. West Star Mountain Village wasn't that big, and everyone knew each other. Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Yushu were a little embarrassed. They had never seen such friendly villagers before, and they didn't know what to say. Fortunately, there was a film on the car, and the villagers could only see Tang Yin in the front seat. They didn't notice Meng Yao and Yushu in the back seat. This is the girlfriend that Dr. Lin said you brought back, right? TSK, this girl is so pretty. Widow Wang looked at Tang Yun and praised. Thank you. Tang Yun didn't know how to reply. Haha, you look very shy. Widow Wang laughed out loud. All right, Aunt Wang, stop teasing her. My girlfriend is shy. Lin Yi helped Tang Yun out. Let's not talk about it now. I'll bring her home first. And I'll treat everyone to dinner later. It's done, Lil Yi, you can go back first, Aunt Wang said, and the others made way for Lin Yi to go home first. After all, Lin Yi hadn't come back for a long time, and the first thing he would do was to go home, not to chat with them. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu back to the familiar courtyard of his house. As expected, he saw Lin Dongfang sitting on the chair in the courtyard. He seemed to have expected Lin Yi to come back, and he didn't look surprised at all. He was eating sunflower seeds and drinking wine lazily. Lin Yi parked the car and got off with Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu. Lin Yi hadn't seen old Lin for a long time, and he missed him quite a bit. He walked over enthusiastically, and Lin Dongfang jumped up from the chair. He then walked quickly towards Lin Yi. Old man, I finally see you again. Lin Yi walked over with a sigh. However, Lin Dongfang didn't seem to see Lin Yi at all. He walked past him and went straight to Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu. He said excitedly, Hello, you are Lin Yi's first wife, second wife, and third wife, right? Welcome to be our guests. Lin Yi felt extremely awkward. He had put his warm face on a cold, and Lin Dongfang didn't even respond to him, and went to talk to Tang Yun and the others. It made Lin Yi lose face, and old Lin's question made Lin Yi lose face even more. Chapter 1759. Yun Yun sis and Yao Yao sis are the main wife. I'm the second wife. I don't have a second wife or third wife. Yushu said, Ahem. Dongfang was just joking. He didn't expect someone to be even worse than him. He started coughing. Old man, that's how Shu is. She likes to joke around. Don't listen to her. Let me introduce you. Lin Yi said with a smile. This is Tang Yin. I told you about her before. These two are Chu Meng Yao and Yushu, good friends with Yun Yin. They're also the employers for the mission you gave me, but Lin Yi had to admit that Yushu's words had dispelled the awkwardness between them and brought them closer together. Haha, I was just joking. I didn't expect you to be even better. Dongfang smiled at Yushu. Welcome. Haha, it's fine. Yushu said, Shield Bro really does have a second wife, but she's not here. She's practicing in the Ice Palace. Dongfang knew that Yushu was talking about Xiao Xiao, so he wasn't surprised. He nodded. Why didn't you tell us you were coming? I could have prepared some food. You came back so suddenly and I didn't prepare anything? Haha, it's fine. Tell Gooden to go hunt some wild game. We'll have wild game tonight. Lin Yi said, Right, I'll go get Gooden, Yun Yun, Yao Yao, and Shu. You guys settle down here. And okay, you can go. Tang Yin and the others naturally needed to pack their luggage, so they nodded and said, since Lin Yi had said a long time ago that he would bring them home. Dongfang had prepared a new room for them. He waited for Lin Yi to leave before saying to the three, I'll show you around the house. If there's anything you need, just let me know. Treat it like your own home. Don't be shy. Okay, Grandpa Lin, we've bought most of the stuff we need. We don't need anything else. Tang Yin said quickly. That's good too. you guys settle down first. I'll tidy up the kitchen. We'll have some game tonight. Lin Dongfang led the three of them into the house at the side, and then went to clean up the cooking stove. Because Lin Yi wasn't home, old Lin basically ate his food, so the cooking stove was already very dirty. He had to clean it up. Lin Yi came to Gooden's house with ease, and Yuan was busy drying some chilies and corn. She paused when she saw Lin Yi. Where's Gooden? I'm back, so I came to see him. Lin Yi smiled. When did you come back? Why didn't you tell me in advance? Jiaming always says that he misses you and wants to see you, but there's a lot of farm work recently. We don't have time. Yuan said in surprise. Jiaming went hunting in the mountains and will come back at night. Then I'll go look for him. Lin Yi often went up the mountains with Gooden, and he knew where he was. He didn't need Yuan to tell him. All right, go find him then. Right, why don't you eat at my house tonight? We can have some game. Yuan invited. Tang Yin, Yao, and Shu are all back. They're at my house. Why don't you guys go over tonight? Lin Yi said. That's fine too. Yuan nodded. Lin Yi left Gooden's house and walked towards West Star Mountain. The mountain was dangerous and there were many beasts there. Normal hunters didn't dare go deep into the mountain, and they only hunted at the foot of the mountain. But Gooden didn't care. He could go straight into the mountain to hunt. No beast had been able to escape from Gooden's punch. Gooden killed with one hit, not giving the beast a chance to fight back. Uncle Wong hunting? At the foot of West Star Mountain, Lin Yi saw the hunter Uncle Wong and greeted him. Lily, you're back? Uncle Wong grabbed a wild chicken and turned around. He smiled. When did you come back? Today, I came to look for Gooden. Did you see him, Uncle Wong? Lin Yi asked. I saw him. He went up the mountain. He's up there, Uncle Wong said. Only this kid is born with godly strength, and he dares to go hunting. Normal people don't come back. Right, and you too are really. Haha, I practiced kung fu with the old man when I was young. Lin Yi smiled. Then I'll go up first. Go, come and play when you're free. Uncle Wong said. Everyone in the village knew that Lin Yi knew kung fu, but no one knew how strong Lin Yi's kung fu was. Normal people thought that Lin Yi was just stronger than normal people. Who's there? Gooden's instincts were very sharp. If a beast ambushed him from behind, he'd be dead. Although he was very strong, his defense was no different from a normal person. He had to be extremely vigilant. When a beast approached him, he had to react immediately. But what he heard was footsteps. It wasn't the footsteps of a beast. It was the footsteps of a human. This made Gooden feel strange. Other than him, no one else dared to enter the mountain. It's me. Lin Yi was very satisfied with Gooden's instincts. He purposely didn't hide his footsteps to test him. There wouldn't be any practitioners in this forest that would attack Gooden. If there was, it would be a beast, and a beast wouldn't be able to hide its footsteps. Boss? Gooden paused and turned around in surprise and joy. He looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Boss, you're back? Didn't I tell you? I'll be back in August for sure. Lin Yi nodded. I just arrived today. Tang Yin and the others are here too. Want to come to my house tonight? Sure, I'll bring Yuan over. Gooden nodded, remembering that Lin Yi said he'd be back in August for sure, but he didn't think much of it at the time. Now that he mentioned it, he finally remembered. Lin Yi wanted to enter the cave behind the back of the mountain on the night of the full moon. He didn't know who made this 5-year promise, but it was true that he could only enter after 5 years. This time, Lin Yi couldn't miss it. There were still a few days until the full moon, and Lin Yi wasn't in a rush. How's today's harvest? Lin Yi asked as he looked behind Gooden. There wasn't anything there yet, so he was curious. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1760. Back to the Cave, Part 2. Gooden was a little embarrassed. Don't mention it. I had a stomachache this morning, so I had to find a place to settle it. But it's fine. I'll go hunt some wild animals for dinner. All right, then let's split up. We'll meet at my house. Lin, he wanted to go check out the cave behind the mountain, but he couldn't bring Gooden along, other than old Lin. Lin E was the only one who knew about this secret. Gooden was a reliable person, but this was a serious matter, and Lin E was afraid that he'd spill the beans. All right, Gooden agreed without hesitation. After all, the two of them used to separate when they hunted, and Lin E used hunting as an excuse to check out the cave to see if there was a possibility of opening it early. But before the art of dragon mastery reached the first stage, it was impossible to open the stone door. Now that Lin E had reached it, he wanted to see if he could open the door before the full moon. After parting with Gooden, Lin E went straight to the top of the mountain. Here, Lin E was the king of the jungle. Most of the beasts here knew Lin E, and they'd suffered under Lin Yi's hands before. So wherever Lin E went, the beasts basically all moved away. Lin Yi's aura made these beasts instinctively feel a sense of danger, just like General Weiwu. At the top of the mountain, Lin Yi jumped down the steep cliff. With Lin Yi's current strength, he could jump back and forth without any pressure. He came to the entrance of the cave that he'd been to dozens of times before, and Lin Yi placed his hand on the stone door, channeling the art of dragon mastery. The stone door didn't react at all. Lin Yi sighed bitterly. It seemed that he had to wait for the full moon to come here. Otherwise, it would be useless. Fortunately, it was only a few days until the full moon, and Lin Yi looked around the cave. The traps he'd set up before he left hadn't been touched by anyone. It seemed that no one had been here before, and Lin Yi could leave with peace of mind. When they got home, Gooden was already in the yard with old Lin, cleaning up the deer and other game. Tang Yin and the others wanted to help, but the scene was too bloody. They couldn't help until they cut the deer into smaller pieces. Tang Yin had lived in a bungalow before, and it wasn't too bad for her, but Meng Yao and Yushu were quite curious about it. Their villa was pretty much the same as a bungalow, but cooking with a stove in the yard was a first for them. It's so fun, Shield Bro. Did you live here when you were young? Yushu was like a curious baby as she walked around the yard. You'll get bored after a while. Lin, he said, there's no entertainment like in the big cities, so you can only watch TV or play on the internet at night. You're right, Yushu nodded. But as long as I'm with Shield Bro, it's fun. Huh. Lin smiled and shrugged, not saying anything else. At night, everyone sat around the fire and ate meat. Old Lin was very happy with the box of ergotu Tang Yin brought him, opening one bottle like it was a treasure. He poured one for himself, one for Gooden, and one for Lin Yi before pouring a cup of water for Lin Yi. This action made Tang Yin, Yao Yao, and Shu curious. Old Lin couldn't be that stingy, could he? They were all drinking, so why would he pour water for Lin Yi? Haha, maybe it's because of my practitioner's arts. I've never gotten drunk before, so it's a waste for me to drink. It's the same as drinking water. Lin Yi saw their confusion and explained with a smile. I see. Tang Yin and the others understood. Although Lin Yi was drinking water, everyone was enjoying themselves, especially old Lin. He smiled as he looked at Lin Yi, Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Yushu. Lin Yi, you're the best. Gooden brought back a wife, and you brought back 3. I didn't even have enough gifts to share. It's fine, Grandpa Lin. Lin, he already told us about your situation. He said that you donated all your money to those children, so we don't need any gifts. Tang Yin quickly said, It's fine, Grandpa Lin. Yeah, we're all family, no need to be so polite, Yushu said. PFTT, Lin E, old Lin, and Gooden all burst into laughters. Yushu really didn't treat them as outsiders. After 3 rounds of drinking, old Lin sobered up a little and said, I heard that you want to find a suitable practitioner's arts for Yun Yun and the others. Turning them into practitioners. Yes, that's exactly what I meant, Lin nodded. Xiao Xiao became a practitioner and they want to train too. Is that so? Old man Lin pondered for a moment and said, Everyone's physique is different, so the mantra suitable for cultivation is also different. For example, the mantra that you cultivate has no effect on me. I'm the same as Erguden, a physical practitioner with no class. Although I have spiritual arts, it's only a support type and I haven't reached sky class yet, so I can't suppress my body's condition. So my situation doesn't apply to them. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm troubled about. Master left. Otherwise, I might be able to get some useful information from him. After all, he knows a lot. Lin Yi sighed. Then do you have any other ideas? That's right. Yes. I can try to contact someone for you. Maybe he has a way, but maybe he doesn't, Old Lin said. Old Lin said, As far as I know, the mental cultivation method that you cultivate is the most powerful mental cultivation method that we have. The others are all supplementary ones that strengthen the body. For example, the one that your master and I cultivate. Although we cultivate both internal and external, and we have reached a certain level of external cultivation, we don't have a grade. As for internal cultivation, we don't have much of an achievement either. Hearing the words, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with surprise. It seemed like Old Lin had some connections behind him that he didn't know about. Then you'll have to keep an eye on this, Old Lin. Lin, he didn't hold back, right? You and Erguden still haven't found a solution? Is there no way to bring the spring water out of West Star Village? It's been so many years, and there's no result. I'm about to give up, Old Lin said with a smile. Hashtag target equals _blank. Chapter 1761. Linny nodded and didn't say anything else. The night in Star West Village was quiet and the sky was pure. In the city, it was rare to enjoy this kind of tranquility and see the beautiful starry sky. Lin Yi and Tang Yin sat on a big rock in the yard, enjoying the moment. Meng Yao and Yushu didn't disturb Lin Yi and Tang Yin. The three were very close, but Lin Yi and Tang Yin didn't have many chances to be alone. Now that they were here, they gave Lin Yi and Tang Yin a chance. After all, Old Lin was joking, but Meng Yao didn't want to be shameless. Tang Yin was Lin Yi's girlfriend, and it wouldn't be right for her and Shu to interfere. Are you used to it? Lin Yi put his arm around Tang Yin's shoulder. It was rare for them to have such a warm moment. It's pretty good. Tang Yun blushed as she was hugged by Lin Yi. She played with the ring on her finger, subconsciously. Although Tang Yin wasn't jealous of Meng Yao and Yushu anymore, she was still a little competitive. This ring was a gift from Lin Yi. Even if Meng Yao and Yushu became Lin Yi's second wife, Tang Yin was still unique. She was a very special one. That's good. I was just worried that you guys wouldn't be used to it. Lin, he said, I said I would bring you home last time, and this is how it is now. If we were impulsive last time, we might end up like Erguden and Yun, living here for the rest of our lives. Isn't that better? Tang Yin said, subconsciously. HM? Lin Yi paused. Nothing. Tang Yun blushed even more. She accidentally revealed her thoughts, and she didn't want Meng Yao and Yushu to hear it. But behind a pile of firewood not far away, there were two little spies. Yao Yao, Yun sis, seems to still have a knot in her heart. Yushu said softly, That's for sure. Who told you to keep saying that you want to be Lin Yi's concubine? Yin has already done enough to not kick you out. Meng Yao glared at Yushu and scolded her. But in her heart, she was thinking, was the knot in Tang Yin's heart Yushu or her? Isn't Xiao Xiao a small wife too? Why doesn't she have a knot in her heart? Yushu said, unconvinced. She was going to die at that time. How could it be the same? You don't have any illness or disaster. If you were to die, maybe Lin Yi would marry you and Tang Yin would agree. Meng Yao said, annoyed. It's hard to say. Maybe I'll end up like that one day. Yushu said, Don't jinx it. Meng Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Can't you say something positive? You're still thinking about this? Man, I'm just telling the truth. Yushu raised her head and looked at the stars in the sky. No one knows what will happen to them in the future. Even I, the prophet Shu, don't know. Shu, why are your words so profound all of a sudden? Meng Yao paused. No, ho, I'm just joking. Yushu grinned. You scared me. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. In actuality, Lin Yi had heard every single word of the conversation between Meng Yao and Yushu. Lin Yi was an Earth class, after all, so there was no way he'd be able to hide something like this from him. However, Lin Yi wouldn't purposely expose anything. He just pretended that he didn't hear anything. It was rare to have a chance to be alone with Tang Yin. Lin Yi naturally treasured it. I wonder how Xiao Xiao is doing now. The last time I saw her, it's only been a few days. I miss her already. Tang Yin sighed. Sometimes you get a little jealous. Now that she's gone, you miss her again. Lin Yi said helplessly. Yeah, although sometimes I don't feel too happy when I think of her as your girlfriend. But now that she's gone, I miss her again. Tang Yin was that kind of person. Her heart was in a mess. Haha, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. When the time comes, we'll bring her back together. Lin Yi made a vow in his heart. He had to become an elixir refiner. It was an urgent matter, but there was no progress in the field of elixir refinement. What Lin Yi lacked now was a good teacher. The refiners from the Sky Elixir sect had someone to guide them, and Bao Kua and the Hidden Right House had someone to guide them. Lin Yi was the only one who didn't know where to start. But currently, Lin Yi wasn't on good terms with the Sky Elixir sect and the Hidden Right sect. He couldn't ask them for help. There was a second-level refiner in the Ice Palace, but Lin Yi couldn't bring himself to ask for help. He heard that the refiner was very arrogant. In the Ice Palace, only the girl Crystal Candy could talk. Even if Lin Yi wanted to learn, she might not be willing to teach Lin Yi. Okay. Tang Yin nodded heavily. I really hope that we can be like tonight. We can forget all our worries and be carefree. We can sit in the garden and look at the stars. Life would be great. There will be such a day. When the time comes, I'll be with you, us. Lin Yi couldn't help but pause when he said the word us. Haha, it's okay. I've thought it through. If Yao Yao and Shu want to follow us, they can. We can find a place or live in seclusion. It'll be fun. Tang Yin said. But you don't seem to be someone who can stay idle. Yao Yao and Shu. Lin Yi looked at Tang Yin strangely. Yao Yao doesn't know what she's thinking. Shu likes you. Since I accepted Xiao Xiao, how can I exclude her? All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Today, did Grandpa Lin tell you in private what he thinks of me? Tang Yin smiled, returning to her usual carefree and easygoing self. Not really. Lin Yi shook his head. He seems to like you a lot, but he's just like that. He's always unreliable. He likes you all. Haha, that's good. Tang Yin nodded. Lin Yi was an orphan. Grandpa Lin, who raised him, was naturally Lin Yi's parent. His attitude was directly related to whether Tang Yin could stay in House Lin in the future. Since Grandpa Lin didn't have any objections, there was no problem. Tang Yin is a good person. Shu, if you really want to be with Lin Yi in the future, don't bully her. She's a very kind person. Meng Yao listened to Tang Yin's words and sighed. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1762. Of course. Shu's the best. She never bullies her own family. St. Hall, Yushu said. She only bullies outsiders. Yeah, Meng Yao nodded. You've heard everything you wanted to hear. We should go back and rest now. Yeah. Yao Yao. Why aren't they sleeping yet? I'm a bit sleepy. Yawn. Yushu yawned, but they couldn't leave without Lin Yi and Tang Yin leaving. It was very quiet in the middle of the night, and they'd be discovered if they moved. Who told you to be a spy? Shu 007. Great, if they want to have a romantic night here. We'll just sleep behind the firewood. Meng Yao said, not in a good mood. So many mosquitoes. Why don't we just go out? It's nothing much anyway. Yushu felt that they'd become mosquito bites the next day if they slept here for one night. You can go if you want. I'm not going. Meng Yao couldn't afford to lose face, eavesdropping on other people's private conversations. How embarrassing was that? But their conversation was heard by Lin Yi, and Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. Yunyan, let's go out for a walk. The air is very fresh at night, and sitting here for so long is going to make my legs sore. Note. Okay. Tang Yin nodded, and very naturally let Lin Yi hold her hand, and the two walked out of the garden together. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, used this opportunity to return to their room, but the two of them were already covered in mosquito bites. Even if they used mosquito repellent and stickers, the mosquitoes here were too strong. Back in the room, Yushu lit up the mosquito coil and applied some balm with Meng Yao. After a while, Tang Yun came back as well, and looked at the two strangely. Why are there so many mosquito bites? Why are there so many mosquitoes in the room with the mosquito coil? Tang Yun asked, surprised. Ugh, there are a lot of mosquitoes here. Meng Yao said awkwardly. I'm outside, but I didn't get bitten. That's weird. Tang Yin didn't have a single mosquito on her, but she didn't know that it was because Lin Yi used his pure qi to chase away the mosquitoes nearby. Meng Yao and Yushu were too far away, and Lin Yi couldn't take care of them. You weren't bitten. Yushu was surprised and complained. This mosquito is so biased. Yao Yao sis and I were bitten. Why didn't bite you? We're not that far away. Not far? What does that mean? Weren't you guys in the house? Tang Yin paused. Holy church, Shu's saying that we were bitten, but you weren't bitten, so she's a little upset. Meng Yao explained. What she's trying to say is that we were inside the house and outside the house, but you weren't. Oh, is that so? Maybe it's because the room is small, so there are more mosquitoes. Tang Yin couldn't explain it clearly. Are there any mosquitoes now? Do you want me to kill them for you? No need. I killed them all and lit the mosquito coil. There won't be any more. Meng Yao said. Oh. Tang Yin nodded. Life in the village was leisurely and happy. The villagers heard that 3 city beauties came to old Lin's house, and they all came to visit. They were envious of Lin Yi's luck with women. They were already envious that Gooden married a city wife, and now Lin Yi brought back 3. They were even more impressed. But these people were just looking, and they knew their place. They wouldn't introduce their relatives or friends, children of the right age to him. Of course, the novelty only lasted for a few days. After that, things returned to normal. Other than playing with the 3 girls, Lin Yi spent his time with Gooden. Boss, you're at home, and I'm preparing to get engaged with Yuan. There's a wedding in a few days. You have to come. Gooden said. Engagement. Lin Yi wasn't surprised Gooden and Yuan weren't of marriageable age yet. But according to the customs of the village, they could get engaged first. After the engagement, it was the same as getting married, and everyone in the village would treat Yuan as a part of Gooden's family. Yeah, boss, do you want to get engaged with me too? Gooden asked. I'll pass. Lin Yi thought about his situation and rejected. How was he supposed to get engaged? With Tang Yin? Wouldn't Shu be unhappy? And Xiao wasn't here. What was he supposed to do? In the blink of an eye, it was the day of Gooden's engagement. The quiet village became lively all of a sudden, decorated with lanterns and streamers. Everyone from the surrounding villages came to support the couple, and Gooden's family, as the host, started preparing early. Wild boar, wild chicken, wild duck, wild roe deer, all sorts of wild animals were prepared. Corn, potatoes, vegetables, and other side dishes were prepared a few days in advance. Early in the morning, when the sky was bright, the kitchen in Gooden's house started getting busy. All kinds of relatives who knew how to cook came to help. Because there were too many banquets. There were more than 100 tables. It could be said that all the residents of the village and the residents of the other villages had rushed over. This was how it was here. When someone had a wedding or a funeral, everyone would come to support them. As for whether they would give gifts or not, it was a small matter. What they wanted was such a lively scene. As Gooden's best friend, Lin Yi naturally had to help out. Mang Yao, Yu Shu, and Tang Yin, on the other hand, didn't rest at all. They became waiters and waitresses, helping to serve the dishes. There weren't too many rules for an engagement in the village. The two people would show their faces on the stage, say some polite words, and spend the rest of their lives together. Then, the invited troupe would perform, and the two people wouldn't have to do anything else. Everyone came to watch the show, and the newlyweds went to change their clothes. Every table went to give a toast, of course, whether they knew each other or not. This was the custom of the village. It's so interesting. Will we get engaged like this in the future? Tang Yin enviously asked. If you want, naturally we can do it. I'm just worried that you'll think it's too noisy, Lin Yi said. Yeah, us, me and Xiao Xiao. How could we get engaged with you at the same time? Wouldn't people laugh at us? Tang Yin shook her head. It's better to keep a low profile. Hearing Tang Yin's words, Lin Yi didn't know how to reply. He could only smile bitterly. Tang Yin was right. What would happen if the two of them got engaged at the same time? Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1763. The moment the stone door opened, Lin Yi heard Jiao Yazi's voice. Little Lin, did you call me just now? Jiao Lao, what did you do just now? I called you so many times, but you didn't respond. Now that it's over, why are you talking? Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Just now, the connection between you and the space in the jade was cut off. Didn't you feel it? I could hear you, but I couldn't communicate with you. Jiao Yazi said. I see. Lin Yi was speechless. He blamed Jiao Yazi wrongly. Now that the connection between him and the space in the jade was restored, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. The stone door just now gave me a fright. I didn't have any experience like this before. I thought my energy was sucked away and the stone door couldn't be opened. Just now. Jiao Yazi pondered. As the stone door opened, I recovered some of my memory. Just now, was your energy sucked away by the stone door and returned to you? Yes, that's right. Lin Yi nodded. Holy Church, this situation is very normal. The stone door was just testing you. Jiao Yazi said. The first stone door can be opened by using the art of dragon mastery. However, the second stone door needs to test if you have completed the first stage of the art of dragon mastery and successfully entered the second stage. Only then will the stone door open. So that's how it is. Lin Yi understood. However, the next question made Lin Yi confused. Jiao Lao, if that's the case, why did I feel that after the stone door absorbed my energy and returned it to me? Why did I feel that after the energy came back, it entered the stone door again and then went through my left and right hand as if it was a cycle? Haha, you're asking about this. Jiao Yazi had recovered a portion of his memories and could answer most of the questions Lin Yi was facing. The stone door does this to filter and purify the energy in your body. Because the energy in your body doesn't come entirely from the pure energy in the space of the jade pendant. A part of it comes from the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that you cultivate, and the other part comes from the chi gathering pill you consumed. This causes the energy in your body to not be particularly pure. So in order to better cultivate the second level of the art of dragon mastery, the stone door automatically filters and purifies the energy in your body before it opens. Don't you feel that the energy returning to your body has become purer? Indeed. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't expect the stone door to have such a benefit. Previously, Lin Yi thought that as long as he followed the 5-year promise and activated the art of dragon mastery, he could open the stone door. Little Lin, it's almost daybreak. Why are you still talking nonsense with me? Jiao Yazi suddenly reminded him. If you have any questions, ask me when we get back. Now, quickly take your benefits and leave this place. Otherwise, it'll be too late for regrets. Lin Yi was shocked. Because the cave was as bright as day, Lin Yi couldn't feel the situation outside the cave. However, after hearing Jiao Yazi's words, he turned around and realized that there was a faint white light outside the cave. It seemed like it was not far from daybreak. With that thought, Lin Yi quickly got up and walked towards the second stone door. However, when Lin Yi entered the second stone door, the scene behind the stone door disappointed Lin Yi greatly. Behind the second stone door, there was no magnificent hall like the first stone door. Instead, there was a small, simple room. The four sides of the room were made of stone. There wasn't any luxurious design. However, what made Lin Yi curious was that there was no light source in the entire stone room, but it was still as bright as day. He didn't know what was the source of the light. However, Lin Yi wasn't surprised. Lin Yi had experienced the strange things in the cave 10 years ago. Therefore, no matter what happened, Lin Yi wasn't surprised. In front of the stone room, there was a small platform. On the platform, there was still an antique small box. Other than that, there was nothing else. Perhaps this was the mantra for the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. However, Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Jiao Lao said that the second stage of the art of dragon mastery had some benefits. One of the biggest benefits was that the space in the jade pendant could be turned into a storage space to store things. But now, it seemed that there was only the second stage of the cultivation mantra and nothing else. Could it be that after cultivating the second stage of the cultivation mantra, the jade pendant's storage space could be automatically opened? Although the scene behind the second stone door disappointed Lin Yi, it was within Lin Yi's expectations. A small box was all he had gained from this trip to the cave. Lin Yi walked around the stage, and there was a third stone door at the back of the stage. And beside the third stone door, there was also a similar stone tablet. On it, there was a line of words written in seal script. Stone door can be opened after mastering the second stage. This line of words formed a sharp contrast with the words on the stone tablet. It almost made Lin Yi cry. Great! Since this was written on the stone tablet, it probably meant that he didn't have to abide by the 5-year promise of the full moon anymore. As long as he perfected the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, he could open the third stone door. As such, Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to investigate. He directly went up the platform, took the box on the platform, and walked out of the cave. Although he didn't know how long it took to open the second stone door, it definitely wasn't a short time. If it wasn't for Jiao Lao's reminder, he might have missed the time. That would be troublesome. So, Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to check the things in the small box. It would be the same if he went back to check. If he was trapped in the cave, he wouldn't be able to get out. Although Lin Yi's energy was self-sufficient and he might not die even if he was trapped in the cave for 5 years, there were so many things waiting for Lin Yi to do outside. How could Lin Yi be trapped here forever? Moreover, there was nothing left in the cave for Lin Yi to miss. All the benefits were in this box. Lin Yi didn't even look back and hurried back to his home in the West Star Village. You're back. Lin Yi didn't think that old Lin wouldn't rest the whole night. Instead, he was sitting on a chair in the courtyard, quietly waiting for Lin Yi's return. When he saw Lin Yi, old Lin suddenly opened his eyes and asked, "Target equals _ blank." Chapter 1764. Remember, don't practice before you complete the tempering process. These 2 lines of annotations made Lin Yi frown. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to start practicing the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. But when he saw the annotations below, he could only give up on this idea. Holy Church, as the saying goes, An impatient man cannot eat hot tofu. However, where was the so-called body-tempering prescription? Could it be one of the 2 remaining silk scrolls? Thinking of this, Lin Yi temporarily put down the 2nd stage of the mantra and took out the 2nd silk scroll from the small box. He opened it carefully and read it. The words tempering prescription were reflected in Lin Yi's eyes. As expected, this was a prescription. Lin Yi, who had a deep understanding of medicine, could tell at a glance that this was a prescription. Luckily, it was a prescription and not a pill prescription. If it was a pill prescription, then Lin Yi wouldn't be able to find a place to cry even if he wanted to. The prescription didn't need to be refined with alchemy fire. It could be used directly after concocting it. This was also Lin Yi's specialty, and at this moment, Lin Yi finally understood what Jiao Yazi meant. Without using the tempering prescription, it was impossible to practice the 2nd stage of the art of dragon mastery. And in the cave, where would Lin Yi go to concoct the tempering medicine? Not to mention practicing the 2nd stage. He might really have to wait 5 years in the cave before he could see the light of day again. This made Lin Yi's back break out in a cold sweat. He felt lucky. Under the tempering prescription, there were 4 big words: jade pendant condensation. When Lin Yi saw these 4 words, he couldn't be bothered to study the body tempering formula. Instead, he focused all his attention on the jade pendant condensation. Lin Yi remembered that Jiao Yazi had said that he would receive benefits after opening the 2nd stone door in the space of the jade pendant. However, his memory had not been opened at that time, so he did not remember it clearly. Therefore, he did not say much about it. From the looks of it, could this be the method to transform the space in the jade pendant? Lin Yi continued to read, only to see that under the words jade pendant condensation, there was a line of small words written: 2nd level condensation, storage space. Seeing this, Lin Yi could not help but feel a little puzzled. Could it be that there was still a 1st level of condensation for the jade pendant? Otherwise, how could it directly become the 2nd level of condensation? Thinking of this, Lin Yi asked doubtfully, Jiao Lao, did I miss something behind the 1st stone door? Why is this the method of condensation for the 2nd level of the jade pendant and not the 1st level? You didn't miss it. The 1st level of condensation was completed by someone else for you. Your jade pendant did not have a cultivation space previously, and with your strength when you just opened the stone door, it was impossible for you to condense it. Therefore, the person who made the jade pendant did it for you. As for the 2nd level, you need to figure it out yourself. Jiao Yazi's memory seemed to have recovered quite a bit. He could also answer Lin Yi's question. I see. Lin Yi nodded and continued to read. Compared to the previous formula, Lin Yi was more interested in the jade pendant condensation. However, when Lin Yi continued to read, his face suddenly showed an extremely strange expression. This was because some of the materials mentioned above, Lin Yi had never heard of them, let alone seen them. Blue crystal powder, pure topaz colored steel. Although there weren't many materials, at least Lin Yi didn't know what blue crystal powder and pure topaz were. He had heard of colored steel, but he wasn't sure if it was the same colored steel that he had heard of. According to Lin Yi's knowledge, colored steel was just a kind of steel plate that was painted with colored paint. However, Lin Yi thought that it shouldn't be such an ordinary thing, right? Jiao Lao, what are blue crystal powder, pure topaz, and colored steel? Lin Yi didn't understand, so he could only ask Jiao Yazi for help. Are you planning to condense the jade pendant first? When Jiao Yazi heard Lin Yi's question, he knew Lin Yi's intention. There is a prerequisite for condensing the jade pendant. The 2nd level of mental cultivation must be perfected in order to condense the energy of mental cultivation. What's the use of knowing it so early? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He only looked at the materials needed in front and didn't look at the specific condensation method of the jade pendant. However, After listening to Jiao Yazi's words, Lin Yi said, "Even if I can't condense it, I still need to collect the materials first, right?" "That's right." Jiao Yazi nodded and said, "The so-called blue crystal powder is the powder of blue crystal. Pure topaz is topaz without any impurities. As for colored steel, it belongs to the uncommon category. It's a naturally formed, colorful metal. Where can I find it?" After listening to Jiao Yazi's explanation, Lin Yi suddenly showed a bitter smile. Blue crystal could be collected in the jewelry market, but as for pure topaz, it was a bit difficult. Most of these things had a price, but no supply. Topaz did exist, but pure topaz without any impurities was hard to find. As for the colorful steel, Lin Yi had never heard of it. Hidden aristocratic families, ancient sects, various ancient ruins. Jiao Yazi said, "I'm not sure where exactly, but colored steel is one of the supplementary materials needed to forge weapons. Those ancient sects might know about it." Forge weapons? Why didn't I see them using weapons? Lin Yi didn't see any weapons in Rock Candy and Little Qing's hands. Do Heaven Stage Masters need to use weapons to deal with Earth Stage or even Mystic Stage Masters? Jiao Yazi asked. Lin Yi's expression froze and turned into a bitter smile. Jiao Yazi was right. How powerful was a Heaven-class master? Even if Lin Yi was an Earth-class now, he didn't have any confidence in winning against a Heaven-class master, let alone others. Thus, he reckoned that only a battle between Heaven rank experts would use weapons. Rock Candy didn't even use martial arts on him, let alone weapons. With that thought, cold sweat appeared on Lin Yi's back. If it wasn't for Rock Candy's eagerness to keep Xiao Xiao in the Ice Palace, she wouldn't have gone easy on him. Now it seemed that Rock Candy just didn't care about it. Doesn't that mean that if I can't collect these things, I can't condense the jade? I can't store anything in the jade space? Lin Yi said dejectedly, "What kind of benefit is that? I thought that after opening the second stone door, I would be able to obtain these abilities." Wrong. Can't the jade store pure qi? So, it's not like you can't store anything. Jiao Yazi said, "Actually, you can store some things in here, but it's not perfect. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1765. A strange martial skill. Isn't that the same as not saying anything? Lin Yi listened to Jiao Yazi's explanation and had the urge to beat him up. He came to the cave full of hope, and all he got was this. Hawks, he wanted him to condense the jade pendant and not add a storage space in it. Take your time. You've waited for 10 years. Do you need more time? Jiao Yazi looked at Lin Yi's impatient face and shook his head. Do you know why I asked you to wait for 5 years before opening the stone door? Oh, Lin Yi asked curiously, why? You've seen the cultivation speed in the space of the jade pendant. If you persevere, you'll be able to complete the first stage of the art of dragon mastery in less than 3 years, right? Jiao Yazi asked. That's right. Lin Yi thought about how he broke through the bottleneck on the first night he entered the space of the jade pendant and successfully entered the second stage from the first stage of the art of dragon mastery. It was enough to prove the magical effects of the space of the jade pendant. The 3 years that Jiao Lao said was a conservative estimate. If he was fast, he might be able to enter the second stage in less than 3 years. So, why did we set the 5-year promise? Jiao Yazi paused and continued. We were afraid that you'd be too impatient and open the second stone door. You're young, and your mind is not stable. We were afraid that you'd be too impatient, and you'd be too impatient. It's not a good thing to rush to the second stage when you haven't even stabilized the first stage. I see. Lin Yi nodded. Then there's no need to rush to condense the jade pendant. Let's slowly collect the materials and complete the second stage of the art of dragon mastery first. That's how it should be. Jiao Yazi said. Since the decision was made, Lin Yi didn't need to rush to see the method of condensing the jade pendant. He didn't have all the materials, so there was no point in looking. Lin Yi put down the second scroll and picked up the last one. For some reason, Lin Yi suddenly felt nervous. This last scroll was his only hope, the last thing in the box. It was hard for Lin Yi not to be nervous. This time, Lin Yi came to the cave to get the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, but he had another hope, and that was to find a suitable technique for himself. The Earth class masters he met, other than Boss Yu, all had their own techniques, but Lin Yi only had Faubert's technique. He didn't know if it was because it didn't match with the art of dragon mastery, but Lin Yi hadn't made much progress after practicing it for so long. He wasn't a match for others at all. If he didn't have a strong technique, then the advantage that Lin Yi had when he was a mystic would be gone. So Lin Yi really hoped that he could find a technique that suited him in the cave. Even Lin Yi himself was a little sure that there should be a technique that suited him in the cave. Otherwise, where would he go to find a technique? And this last scroll was Lin Yi's hope. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi opened the third scroll. But when Lin Yi saw the word martial technique, he got excited and his face turned red. It really was a martial technique. Sure enough, behind the second stone door of the cave, there was a martial skill. But when Lin Yi calmed himself down and read the content, he was confused again. What was this martial technique? There was only the word martial technique, and below that was the main text. There were no subtitles to explain the moves of the technique, and that wasn't all. What made Lin Yi even more confused was that the main text of the martial technique was a part of the practitioner's mantra. The content of the mantra and the method of qi circulation were similar to the art of dragon mastery. But this was just a mantra for practicing qi, and there were no specific moves. This made Lin Yi very puzzled. There were no moves, just the mantra. What kind of martial technique was this? Could it be that by cultivating the mantra of this martial skill, one would be able to unleash moves? No matter how Lin Yi thought about it, it didn't seem possible at all. It wasn't realistic at all. It was just a method of luck. There was no mention of fighting the enemy, and it made Lin Yi wonder if he'd been tricked. But according to the previous situation, the art of dragon mastery was such a powerful cultivation mantra. How could there be such a deceptive situation? Lin Yi had no choice but to continue asking Jiao Yazi, "Jiao Lao, what's going on with this martial technique? Why is there only a section of the cultivation method mnemonic chant, and no specific cultivation moves? I've said it before, things don't get done quickly. I haven't fully recovered my memory of the martial technique. How would I know what's going on?" Elder Jiao said helplessly, "The original plan was that when you open the second stone door, you would at most have the strength of a mystic class. So the martial arts were only to be used if you broke through the earth class before you opened the third stone door. That's why it was placed at the back of the box, and my memory has only just recovered. It's not fully recovered yet. Even if you ask me now, I can't explain it." Lin Yi was speechless after listening to Jiao Yazi's explanation. It was all his fault that he didn't enter the space of the jade pendant to cultivate, or else he would have entered the second stone door 5 years ago and obtained the mantra and martial technique of the second level of the art of dragon mastery. By this time, Jiao Yazi's memory would have been fully recovered, right? But since Jiao Yazi didn't know, Lin Yi could only find out by himself. He would cultivate first, and if it didn't work, he would have to wait until he recovered his memory. But what made Lin Yi uneasy was that Jiao Yazi's last sentence was used when he broke through the earth class. Could it be because he had been delayed for 5 years, and this martial technique was only used to build the foundation before learning the real martial technique? And the real martial technique could only be obtained after opening the third stone door? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this possibility. His deduction was indeed possible. If he had entered the space of the jade pendant 5 years ago, Lin Yi was afraid that he would at most be a mystic class master. Having a mantra to build the foundation for practicing the martial technique of the Earth class was not a bad thing. When he opened the third stone door, he could smoothly practice the martial technique. But he had been delayed for 5 years, and everything was a little out of place, causing his strength to be higher than expected. He had already reached the early Earth class, but the mantra couldn't keep up with his cultivation speed. Target equals _blank that you're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.